JBS presents live from Olympic Park in Berlin, Germany, the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games.
I'm Mark Golub. Welcome everyone watching JBS throughout America right now. Jewish and non-Jewish, we are thrilled to be joining you live this afternoon from our JBS studios, where in just a little bit we'll be taking you to Berlin, Germany, and the live telecast of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. There's so much to be understood about why these games have a very special significance to the Jewish community and really to the world, especially at a time when anti-Semitism has seen a searing resurgence in Western Europe. The European Maccabi Games are played every 4 years. The last games were played in 2011 in Vienna. The first European Maccabi Games were played in 1929 in Prague and inaugurated the concept of Jewish Olympics with the name Maccabi. Now, of course, there are the Maccabi Games in Israel, also held every 4 years. The first Maccabi Games were held in Tel Aviv in 1932. And for those games, a group of 11 motorcyclists left Palestine in 1931 and went on a journey that took them throughout the Jewish communities of Europe, announcing to the Jews of Europe the first Maccabi Games to be played in Eretz Yisrael. At this year's European Maccabi Games, the motorcycle riders will be commemorated as a group of 11 motorcyclists have been traveling the same route that their forebears traveled in 1932. But there's one difference. This time, the motorcyclists added a stop at Auschwitz. And toward the conclusion of this year's opening ceremonies, these 11 motorcyclists who've been carrying the Maccabi Olympic torch with them will ride into Waldbühne Amphitheater, where the ceremony is being held, and they will participate in lighting the Maccabi Olympic flame that will signal the formal start to this year's Maccabi Games. By the way, the motorcyclists will be joined by two women who embody the added significance of this year's Maccabi Games. Many of you well know the story we just told in the preamble to our program, the story of Marty Glickman and Sam Stoller. Marty Glickman became one of America's most beloved play-by-play sports announcers. In New York, he was iconic, announcing New York Knicks basketball and Giants football. But back in 1936, Marty Glickman was a football star at Syracuse University and one of America's greatest track stars. And he was living a dream by being on the American Olympic team that ran the 100-meter relay race. And his teammate was another Jewish track star, Sam Stoller. Adolf Hitler had already tried to keep Jews out of the 1936 Olympics. Remember, this was a year after the Nuremberg laws were implemented in Germany. And Hitler's demand that there be no Jews in the Games provoked enormous controversy. And in the United States, there was a movement to boycott the 36 Olympics, though Avery Brundage, president of the U.S. Olympic Committee, argued that the Games should be above politics and that the U.S. should participate. But so many other countries threatened to boycott the Games if Jews were forbidden to participate that Hitler relented. And yet, the day before Marty Glickman and Sam Stoller were scheduled to run for the United States in the 100-meter relay, Avery Brundage pulled them from the race. Regardless of the explanations, the underlying reason for the move was Avery Brundage's attempt to appease Adolf Hitler and not have Jewish athletes win a gold medal at his 36th Berlin Olympics. And so Marty Glickman and Sam Stoller never had the chance to live their dream of participating in the Olympic Games, which will forever be a black mark in the annals of Olympic Games history. Which is why the opening ceremonies in Berlin today have a greater transcendent meaning that we want to share with you here on JBS. For joining with the 11 motorcyclists lighting the Maccabi Olympic flame will be the daughter of the late Marty Glickman, Nancy Glickman, and a cousin of the late Sam Stoller, Ann Stoller. So there's a very powerful message being sent in these Berlin European Maccabi Games of 2015. And to help put these games into greater perspective, I'm so pleased to be joined by one of the keenest observers and analysts of contemporary Jewish life. You see him every week here on JBS with his own series, Thinking Out Loud, Micah Halpern. Micah, thank you so much for joining us. You have written about the Olympics. In fact, tell the audience the work you've done, and you've done so much work in so many areas, but talk for a moment about the work you've done studying and writing about the Maccabi Games as they relate to the greater Olympic Games here in world history.
Well, the most important component is the Maccabean Games are the Jewish Olympics.
Exactly.
And it's an attempt to normalize Jews, to not make them into victims, even before the Holocaust. That is, the Zionist model was to say, hello, Jews can be real people, not just book-nosed, or not just wimps or nebbishes, but they really are and can be great athletes.
Yes.
And so the idea was to create the Zionist message, and that message then from across the world, centered, of course, around Israel. In other words, and we'll see in the parade, let's say, for instance, like in the Olympic parade, the countries of participants come in alphabetical order according to the Hebrew alphabet, which is important. And then the last country, of course, will be Israel. That's the culmination.
By the way, this year, as you point out, beginning with the letter Aleph, if it's Eretz Yisrael, according to this year's program,
yes,
this year, Israel will be the first group into the parade, and Germany, the host country, will be the last.
Very interesting. Very interesting. In other words, Maccabi policy in Israel is to do that. Now, also interesting in terms of policy is that these are the Jewish Olympics, except anyone and any resident in Israel can participate, which means there are Arab and Muslim participants on the Israeli team. That's really important.
You know, Micah, most people don't understand that.
That's why I said it.
Yes.
That's why I said. I mean, the insight is tremendous because it really.
Tell them again.
What happens is that it is the Jewish Olympics, right? And Jews from all over the world are able to participate if they have to qualify, obviously. But they are also all residents of Israel can qualify also, which means that there are Muslims and Arabs who are part of the.
Because they're Israeli citizens.
They're Israeli citizens, exactly. And so what happens is that it's not exclusive only to Jews. It is exclusive to Israelis and Jews around the world, which is an important mixture. So that's sort of my interest. I mean, I've got to say something. It's very, the Glickman story and Stoller story is so important. But in the locker room, when Avery Brundage stood up to say, to pull the two Jews, Jesse Owens had already won his three medals. And he said, I don't want to do this.
Yes, by the way, that was not in the story, and I'm very glad you pointed it out. The person who replaced Marty Glickman was Jesse Owens. And the team did go on to win a gold medal, and that was Jesse's fourth. Yes.
Exactly. Now that's important because that gives perspective to the whole story.
Yes.
Hence, so he stood up and he said to Brundage, in front of everyone, and remember this is 36, blacks were not living together in the Olympic Stadium together with whites. All right, you've got to understand that tension was tremendous. Okay, and even in the great America at the time, this is way before civil rights.
Right.
And so he stood up and said, "I've got my 3 medals. I don't want this." And of course, Mac Robinson was following suit, obviously. And so Brundage said, "You don't have a say in this." And he sat them down. And of course, as a result, he then anchored the 4x100 meter, or 4x110 yard, which is the 440-yard dash relay. And then that actually, for all intents and purposes, one could ask the question, had Robinson and Owens not run, would America have gotten the gold? Which is interesting, because those were the two fastest runners in the world. In other words, which they had already proven earlier.
Although, again, I want to correct one thing.
Yeah.
Robinson didn't replace Stoller. You're correct that Jesse Owens replaced Glickman. There was another member of the team, of the general team, who ran, and one of the things that Stoller always resented was that he had run against the gentleman who replaced him, a white runner, and had beat him. So that it wasn't Mac Robinson as one of the four who won the relay race. And as a result, it was interesting. You know, Stoller said it was the most humiliating moment of my life to be pulled. Glickman was bitter till the day he died.
He said, how could they do this to an 18-year-old? He was 18 years old at the time.
And
his biography is spectacular.
Yes.
He was a very, very close personal friend with my uncle. Actually, was also a broadcaster in New York, Nat Ash, who actually brought him in after they fired Glickman at the Knicks. They fired him because he was too Jewish. He created play-by-play.
Yes.
Swish is his word.
Yes.
He created the word, swish. He created this. My uncle, Nat, actually hired him to broadcast the Jets at the time, because he had never done the Jets. He was at the Giants. So they were very, very close personal friends in terms of that.
But with the documentary you're talking about is an HBO documentary.
That's a documentary.
Which anybody who's watching can watch that documentary.
But there's a biography that he wrote also.
Yeah, Glickman wrote an autobiography.
Yes, an autobiography. Also, the HBO biography is spectacular.
Yes.
And it shows the depth, and it also shows him going back to this very stadium.
Yes.
Which is very, very important. So there's my perspective in terms of.
I want to ask you, by the way, from your perspective as you read the whole story, there are some who argue Brundage was only trying to win another gold medal for America. There are others who say that's silly, and that basically these four were scheduled to run. They had practiced together. Glickman was terrific. Stoller had already beat the athlete who replaced him. And the chances are they would have won. And the argument was that Brundage did not want to embarrass Hitler with a Jewish victory. Whether it's that specific or not, to what extent do you feel Brundage did something that was anti-Semitic?
Well, the way in which we read the history is that it was an anti-Semitic move, or an apologetic move, if nothing else. If it wasn't directly anti-Semitic, it was apology to the Nazi regime in the first place. Now, recognize that Brundage sent a team to investigate Germany before the Olympics.
Yes.
To see what Germany was looking like, and came back with a cleansed or purged report saying there is no anti-Semitism in Germany. And that convinced the rest of the committee to say that the United States should not boycott. You made mention of the boycott or the potential boycott of the Olympic Games. And that's an important element. You should also note that the Nazis scrubbed the anti-Semitic stuff from the Olympics itself to make certain that international viewers, especially the press, would not see this kind of offensive material. That said, we have to be true to history, and that's very, very important. There were 13 Jewish medalists in that Olympics, and a gold medalist from America, a basketball player, Sam Balter or something like that was his name, on the basketball team. There was actually a half-Jewish fencer from Germany, which she won the gold on that also. There were 13 medalists that were Jewish, or of, so the proper word would be of Jewish descent, not totally Jewish in that way, which is an important distinction. Despite the fact that Germany and Hitler made it very, very clear that that was not the case. The hardest thing from the swallow, though, was not that. The first major event that reaches gold in the Olympics is the 100-yard dash. At the time, it's the yards, the 100-yard dash. We're moving in the meters now. And that, it's easy because you could run heats quickly, and you have to spread out the excitement of the games. So you can't have golds only in the last day. So what they do is they build the Olympics so that in the first day or so, you have the original gold. So the 100 is easy because you rest for a few hours. You can run another heat until you winnow out the people, and then you have the first victory. And of course, Jesse Owens won that. And it's tradition in the Olympics that the gold, the major events are honored by the host leader. He gives the medal. He did not give the medal to Jesse Owens. He left the stadium, which is an important issue. Hitler would not do that because that was not swallowing with pride. That was a enormous defeat to his racial principle. But it was more than that. In the opening games, in the opening parade, which happens all the time, right? So everyone knows those parades, and the Americans come out in blue and white, and they were wearing skimmers. But everyone gave the Olympic salute, which is a Roman salute. Now, the Roman salute is very important, and it was totally misunderstood in Germany and in Berlin and by Hitler, because the Olympic salute is this. Only a 5-degree difference between that and the Hitler salute. So when the teams came out all saluting, they don't salute today, all saluting, the entire Colosseum and Hitler himself thought that they were saluting Hitler. And they got up to give the Hitler salute, which is very, very, very different. So it's a very important issue there. That said, it was a huge crush to Hitler's racial policy that a black was the star, certainly the hero of the whole, the fastest person in the world. That's what's called the fastest person in the world, the winner, the gold medalist of the 100.
Now, you wrote a lot about the 36
yes,
Olympics.
Yes.
Talk for a moment from your perspective why these Olympics, the Maccabi Games now, are important in the context of going back to Berlin, in the very Olympic park where all of the games took place in 36. And here we are, some 2,100 Jewish athletes and athletes from Israel competing where at one point they were under the shadow of this, the darkness of the Nazi regime, which again, it's in 36. He came to power in 33. The Nuremberg laws were passed in 35. And by the end of the decade, there are concentration camps.
Right.
And here we are now, 2015, and we're in Berlin.
Yes.
And the president of Berlin is going to be addressing these games as part of the opening ceremony. And then Jews are going to participate for 8, 9 days, 10 days in Berlin at the European Olympics. What's it mean to you, Micah?
I mean, it's huge. It's huge because it means that there's a tremendous return to history, but not as victims, but rather as, I'm not going to say victors, but rather as, and not survivors, but rather as a Jewish community that's living and alive today. Not because we're survivors, not because we are in any way vengeful, but rather because we are a living, exciting, dynamic Jewish community that remembers its past. Remember, Sachsenhausen, the Camp Sachsenhausen is 20 miles outside of Berlin, and all the Jewish athletes are supposed to visit that in the time that their visit there.
They will have visited it during their visit this year to Berlin. Yes.
Exactly. Sachsenhausen was established in 1936, and it was primarily set up. There were major communities that were there. There were political prisoners. There were gays and homosexuals. There were gypsies, and there were, of course, Jews. And each one had triangles, different colored triangles. The yellow triangle was, of course, the Jewish triangle. The pink triangle was the homosexual triangle, you should know. That said, this experience right next to Berlin is very, very important. It's important to try to figure out what that means, because Europe has a history of anti-Semitism. Germany has that history. And they're coming to grips with it, much more so than, let's say, Vienna and Austria is. They're confronting it in a serious way. They are great friends of Israel, yet nonetheless, part of the advice given by the security personnel to the participants and their chaperones was, do not walk outside with the yarmulke on. It's not necessarily totally safe. You have to be aware of where you are, which is a very, very interesting coupling with the other discussion that we were having.
Yes. And go there for one more second. You heard me mention that, for me, the significance of the Berlin Games is amplified by this horrific, just breathtaking resurgence of anti-Semitism, not only in Eastern Europe, and you don't want to be in Hungary today, but in England and in France and in some of the Scandinavian countries. And in some way, this is a statement, as I see it, that the Jews are not going anywhere, and that it's important that there be a Jewish presence and a positive Jewish presence. As you say, no one's there lording it over anybody else. We're there simply saying, as you say, we're a vibrant, dynamic, living people. But you comment, how do you see these games in the backdrop of the resurgence of anti-Semitism in Western Europe?
Well, the anti-Semitism in Western Europe is married in two completely different issues. The first is an Islamic anti-Semitism, which is really vituperative and angry and ugly, and the other is a skinhead neo-Nazi kind of anti-Semitism. They are not in cahoots with one another.
It's only the Jews suffer from either
from
one.
both
Correct.
sides. Even just recently in Croatia, at a European Federation soccer competition between Croatia and Italy, when the Italians were prepared to enter the field, there was a huge swastika on the field itself. But the European Football Union, Soccer Union, punished the Croatian team and their entire management for this. They cannot tolerate, and they've said, we will not tolerate anti-Semitism. It can't, even amongst football hooligans. You can't have it. It's civilized culture cannot embrace an anti-Semitic message. And it's not good enough simply to be quiet. It's important to stand up and say this is wrong. So you know what they did in Croatia? The European Football Union said, we're going to dock you 1 point on the international scale. Your next 2 international games will not be played with any fans, which means the fans are going to be punished. We're going to fine you also €100,000, which is $110,000. All these different kinds of things, which said we will not tolerate anti-Semitism.
That's wonderful, isn't it?
It's hugely important, and that the fans have to suffer. The fans have to, and they can't play in Split, which is a particularly anti-Semitic town in Croatia. That said, the Europeans have to say this is not good enough. The Germans are particularly good at making this notation. It's important for them to realize it because they are recognizing exactly those issues.
You know, this year, Israel celebrated 50 years of a positive, contributing relationship with Germany. And again, it's amazing how life takes this turn and that turn. At one point, this would have been unthinkable in the Jewish world, but there have been 50 years of intense cooperation between Germany and Israel, and the Israeli consulate, the Israeli diplomatic world celebrated this 50-year relationship, and it's a sub-theme this year of the Berlin Games. What do you make of those 50 years? And you know, again, you are a student of history. Does it surprise you in any way, the way in which life works? And at one point, Germany, which, you know, when I was growing up, and I don't know if it was true for your parents, my parents wouldn't buy German. The idea of visiting Germany on vacation or for any was just unheard of. The notion was that the Jewish world had had it with Germany, and that not in any malicious way. It was just we weren't going to buy their products, and we were not going to spend our money in Germany, and we had no interest in seeing Germany. There has been a 180 shift in the Jewish world, where now there are polls that show a large number of Israelis, if they leave Israel, one of the places they go is Germany, Berlin, Munich. And here we now have a very, 50 years we're celebrating a positive relationship with the place that spawned the darkest moment, not only in Jewish history, in human history. Speak about that for a moment.
Well, it's important to recognize, firstly, the prophet Isaiah speaks about this notion of the sins of the father shouldn't be on the son.
Absolutely.
And that's an important element. My first recognition of the conflict here, not intellectually, but viscerally, that is in my kishkas, viscerally, was in my first trip to Israel. I looked around, and all the taxis were Mercedes. And I just didn't understand how every single taxi around, every taxi was a Mercedes taxi. And then I was told that it was a part of the reparations, that Germany gave very good deals on these Mercedes. And growing up, we were told, both at home and in our Jewish educational environments, whether it be in the youth movements, in youth groups, or in our schools, the various things we were told, that our synagogues, Germany was bad. And in reality, today, when you fast forward to today, there's no better friend to Israel than Germany in a lot of different ways. And actually, I would go as far as to say that the only a European leader with any gonads, I could say gonads on television, with any real testosterone is Angela Merkel. She's the only one standing up against Russia on the issue of Ukraine.
Chancellor of Germany.
She's the only one involved in that's actually doing something far more than the United States is in terms of that, but also in terms of its relationship to Israel. I need people to understand that Germany, even there was once I was teaching a course on Holocaust, and students said, "Why are you constantly citing issues and speaking in German to us? Why are you telling us that we need to know German words? German is repulsive to me. The language is repulsive to me. When I hear it on the streets, I cringe." I said, just a second, the Germany before the Holocaust was one of the most cultured society and of literature in the world. Not just at that period, but in the history of the world. And Jews were a major part of that. It's important to understand it. That said, there's been a shift. There's no question about it. And it's a shift which is very positive. And in reality, Israel doesn't have a choice in its friends. There aren't all that many people lining up to be Israel's friends. And everyone has a quirk or a character flaw, and every nation does also. We have it in the United States. Israel has it. But there aren't a lot of nations coming to Israel's defense. And so you can't always say, because you did this, I'm sorry. You get my point, obviously.
I do. Beautifully said, Micah. We're going to pause for one moment. When we come back, we're going to give you the schedule of events that are about to take place in Germany, in Berlin, that you're going to see live here on JBS. So stay with us. You're watching JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, expanding Jewish understanding and celebrating all things Jewish.
Welcome to Berlin, my city. The city without walls. Not in the streets and not in the minds. I'll show you Berlin, my city, our capital city. The city with the largest Jewish community in Germany. The symbol of unification, reunification, of East and West, of the people. The city of tolerance, of the future, of music, culture and sport. I'm inviting you to Berlin. Pack your gym bag, start training. Come to Berlin, come visit me. Come to the European Maccabi Games 2015. We're inviting you to a big festival, to the 50th birthday of the diplomatic relations between Israel and Germany, and to the 50th birthday of Maccabi Germany. Celebrate with us. Experience Berlin. Experience Maccabi. Experience the team spirit of thousands of Jewish athletes from all over Europe. Experience the enthusiasm for sports in Germany. Make history. Be part of the first European Maccabi Games in Germany since World War II. Enjoy the fact that this is good, that this is right, that this is natural. Experience the hospitality of Berlin, the city of reunification. In 1989, the reunification of a country. In 2015, the reunification of many nations, of the international Maccabi family with Germany. Show how special you are, just like Berlin is special. You go well together. You both are unique. You are unique. As a person, as an athlete. Berlin is unique as a city, as a symbol. Together you will become a new symbol for sports, for people. A symbol of the future at the European Maccabi Games 2015 in Berlin.
JBS presents live from Olympic Park in Berlin, Germany, the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games.
Welcome back. I'm Mark Golub, sitting here with Micah Halpern, getting ready to watch the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. Let me tell you what's scheduled for these opening ceremonies. And we'll see actually how much of it goes on as planned. But the schedule is that beginning at 8:45 p.m. in Berlin, 8:45. That's 2:45 here on the east coast of the United States. That's when it's to begin. Shortly thereafter, the President of Germany will make his entrance into the amphitheater. Then just before 3 p.m. New York time, the Parade of Nations will begin, led by athletes from the State of Israel, and ending with athletes from the host country, Germany. Then there'll be a series of speeches, including remarks from 3 Maccabi presidents: the president of the Maccabi of Germany, Alon Meyer; the president of the Maccabi World Union, Leo Dan Bensky; and the president of the European Maccabi Federation, Mordechai Tichauer. Then the 2,100 athletes will join in the Maccabi Athletes' Oath, followed by the oath taken by all the judges participating in the 2015 European Maccabi Games. And then, in the same spot where Jewish athletes were excluded from participating in Hitler's Berlin of 1936, nearly 20,000 people in attendance will rise for the playing of Hatikva, the Israeli national anthem. Then 2 international superstars will perform: the German Muslim singer Adele Tawil and the American Jewry's own Matisyahu. There'll be a number of other performances by Dana International, Golden Boy. And a little after 4:40 our time, the Maccabi Games torch will be brought to the stage by 11 motorcyclists joined by Nancy Glickman and Ann Stoller, and the Maccabi flame will be lit, signaling the formal start of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. The ceremonies will conclude with additional performances by Adele Tawil and Matisyahu, and culminating in a spectacular fireworks display. So we hope you stay with us for JBS's complete coverage of the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. We will be receiving a feed from Berlin, Germany, and it'll be interesting to see how that feed will work. And as again, I'm joined here by Micah Halpern. And Micah, I just want our audience to see a list of I said it's 36, 37, 39 countries. But Sloan, Dara, if we can play that list of countries. Here are the countries, and as Micah explained, the other countries have Jewish participants. Israel has Israeli citizens, some of whom are Arab. But here are all the countries that have sent athletes, Jewish athletes, to share in the 2015 European Maccabi Games. Any thoughts as you see this list go by?
Well, it's impressive. I mean, Jews live around the world.
Yes.
And it's impressive also because it means that Maccabi is not just an event, it's also a movement. It's sports clubs around the world, Jewish sports clubs. And so what it means is not just Jewish communities, it's Jews getting together to play sports all over the place, which is a very exciting idea. The original Maccabean games, the principle of the Maccabean games, of bringing Jews together in order to play in Israel, and it became the Maccabees. The Maccabi became the third largest sporting event in the world.
In the world.
First the Olympics, then the Pan American Games, and then the Maccabi. That's really impressive.
Yes.
This is the group just below the Maccabi, and it alternates, as you said in your introduction, every 4 years. So every 2 years it's in Israel. 2 years later it will be in Europe. Every 4 years in Israel, every other year after that.
All right, I see on our monitor, Serge, that there is some activity. Sloan, let's just show it at the moment. This is what is being shown in Germany. And if there is an audio that we can pick up that is in English, we're going to join you. I see. Right now, this is what people in the amphitheater are seeing, Micah. It is not yet meant for broadcast, but obviously there are some... There we go. Obviously singing in German. Und ich singe diese Lieder, tanz mit Tränen in den Augen. Bowie war für einen Tag mein Held und ihr merkt es nicht glauben. Add to our discussion, I'm going to move over a little bit. And so we're going to bring Peter Lilienthal up on the stage here. We're going to mic him. Looks like a host is
Hallo
ready
und
to
herzlich
begin.
willkommen zur Eröffnungsfeier der 14. European Maccabi Games hier in der Waldbühne Berlin. Ich begrüße ganz besonders die Zuschauer bei Hauptstadt Sport TV, natürlich bei Bild Online, und wir werden ja weltweit gesehen. Deshalb begrüße ich auch a very warm welcome to all our viewers all over the world, in the US, in Israel and wherever you are. Welcome to Berlin. This is already a party place. Die Party hat schon begonnen. Ich schaue mich mal um. 15.000 sind gekommen, um heute hier mit uns zu feiern. Die European Maccabi Games sind zum ersten Mal in Deutschland, und einer, der das ermöglicht hat, der dafür gesorgt hat, dass diese Spiele hierher kommen, steht jetzt bei mir. Und ich begrüße ganz herzlich Thomas Nahari. Wie stolz sind Sie, wenn Sie das sehen?
Also erstmal bin ich voller Stolz erfüllt, das hier zu sehen, was das OK hier, der European Maccabi Games, auf die Beine gestellt hat. 15.000 Menschen hierher zu bringen, eine tolle Party, die gerade losgegangen ist vor wenigen Minuten. Aber ich bin noch stolzer, eine Delegation anzuführen von Maccabi Deutschland, von 365 Athleten aus ganz Deutschland, die hinten im Backstage schon warten, reinzulaufen und eine unglaubliche Stimmung machen.
Wenn man mal fragen darf, wie lange haben Sie denn gebraucht für die ganze Organisation? Wann haben Sie begonnen mit der Organisation für diese Spiele?
Ja gut, das hat praktisch angefangen im November 2013. Da mussten wir erst einen OK-Chef finden und ein Organisationsbüro gründen. Sprich über 1,5 Jahre Zeit, was an sich sehr, sehr knapp ist für die Größe dieses Events.
Und war es schwer, die Spiele nach Berlin zu holen? Es gab ja sicherlich auch viele Kritiker. Haben Sie da viel Überredungskunst, Überzeugungskraft gebraucht?
Nein, ganz und gar nicht. Ein Beispiel dafür ist, dass wir im November letzten Jahres viele Delegierte aus verschiedenen europäischen Ländern hier hatten, um denen die Örtlichkeiten zu zeigen und zu zeigen, wo in Berlin die Spiele stattfinden werden. Und die waren sofort begeistert und haben sich sehr gefreut, hierher zu kommen. Von daher habe ich nicht viel an Überzeugungsarbeit leisten können.
Welche Bedeutung haben denn diese Spiele für Maccabi Deutschland jetzt besonders?
Ja, also erstmal schaffen wir es mit einer sehr, sehr großen Delegation hier zu sein. Wir hoffen dadurch einen Startschuss zu gewinnen für eine noch erfolgreiche Zeit, als wir hatten in den letzten 1,5 Jahren. Unsere Ortsvereine zu stärken in den einzelnen Orten in Deutschland, sind 37 an der Zahl. Wir wollen mehr wachsen, mehr Sportarten anbieten und den jüdischen Sport auf der Landkarte in Deutschland auferleben zu lassen.
Heute hat es ja schon begonnen, die ersten Wettkämpfe haben stattgefunden. Wenn man das so beobachtet, es sieht so ein bisschen aus, als ob die Sportler zwar gerne Sport machen, aber noch lieber feiern. Ist das richtig?
Ja, das ist bei den Maccabi Games so die Besonderheit, dass das Sportliche nicht immer im Vordergrund steht, sondern auch mit das Miteinander. Auch wenn man hoch verloren hat an dem Tag, liegt man sich trotzdem danach in den Armen und man ist trotzdem froh, weil das Event an sich im Fokus steht und das Miteinander und die Tradition.
Okay, vielen Dank und viel Spaß bei der Eröffnungsfeier. Und wir schauen jetzt einfach mal auf die Bühne. Da steht ja schon Adel Tawil und singt. Viel Spaß.
Well, you've seen a few moments now of the opening telecast from Berlin, and it was Karen Solotsky who was on camera, and she's speaking German, and she's also doing some translation. Then she did an interview, and it was totally in German. Now, I am flanked by two wonderful individuals and two dear friends of mine. Micah Halpern, you know, on my left is Peter Lilienthal. And Peter, where were you born?
I was born actually in New York City,
Yes.
in the Bronx, not
Yes.
far from Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
But soon after that, moved to Lake Placid.
Okay. Where's your family from?
Family is from Vienna. Father born in 1903, and my mother born in 1911. And I'm first generation American, and grew up in a terrific home.
You spoke to me about how you thought your father, in some way, was, I don't know if he was literally involved in the Maccabi games when he was in Vienna, but he was part of athletic clubs, which in essence led to the creating of the first European Maccabi game.
That's right. The thing that impressed me quite a bit is that my father actually was a world-class athlete. He was a downhill ski champion, and he led a group of gymnastics and of track and field people in Vienna. It was called a Turnverein, and these were all over Europe, a very active group. And in fact, I went back with my parents in 1958 to Europe, and my father, we were in a town just north of Innsbruck, and my father actually coached that local team that was competing in Eastern Europe in track and field.
Okay. Now, the nice thing here is that both Peter and Micah know German. So what they're going to do is they're not going to do a simultaneous translation. First of all, we want to see what Karen does herself. But if, again, there's any more instances where there is an interview where it's all in German, one of these two lovely people is going to give us a conceptual translation. They're going to tell us what is being said. And obviously, we want to experience this as much as we can with you. There is no single English translation coming out of Berlin, but there is this international broadcast that we're able to share with you. So as you hear this, and as you hear this, if there's more where it's all German, I'm going to ask Peter or Micah to sort of give us a sense. Now, right now, where it's a few moments before the actual ceremony is supposed to take place, although based on the schedule we received, it could begin any moment. So, Sloan, let's see once again what's going on. It looks to me like there's still entertainment occurring on the main stage of the amphitheater where the opening ceremonies are taking place. You're watching right now, live from Berlin, the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. Oh wait, Peter, you get a kick out of this?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm actually pretty emotional for me. You know, having the background of my parents and so on, and to see this going on is quite an experience for me.
Okay, Matisyahu has now joined the stage. Let's listen to Matisyahu.
Glaub mir, irgendwann wird die Liebe regieren. Wir haben nichts mehr zu verlieren. Die Zeit lässt die Wunden heilen. Du bist genau wie ich und nicht allein. Ich bin nah bei dir. Gemeinsam schaffen wir Großes. Das Spiel der Spiele steht bereit. Schalt alles in dir ein. Es ist so weit.
They want my heart tonight. I'ma run these lines to my inside shine, and I find some peace of mind. Yeah. Ruthless, they want my heart tonight. I'ma run these lines to my inside shine, find some peace of mind.
Berlin, komm, wir bringen die Welt zum Leuchten. Egal woher du kommst. Zu Hause ist da, wo deine Freunde sind. Hier ist die Liebe umsonst.
Feel my mighty blow as the clouds lay low, and I run up the ground with my feet and go, go, go. My destiny I need to know, chasing dreams, which way will the wind blow? Hearts and dreams, but I can't let go. Want to watch your kingdom grow. Know what think as I run up rainbows, my pain grows. Only the insane know how to dance on the roof as the wolves cry moans. Middle of the darkness, I found my zone. You, my love, are never alone, even when you're so very far from
Berlin,
home.
sag mir, wie lang wir noch hier stehen, bis wir endlich so weit sind, dass wir uns in die Augen sehen. Zeig mir, dass es anders geht. Lass uns zusammen singen, bis uns die Welt zu Füßen liegt. Und alle, komm, wir bringen die Welt zum Leuchten. Egal woher du kommst.
Feel my mighty blow.
Zu Hause ist da, wo deine Freunde sind. Hier ist die Liebe umsonst. Beatbox. Ich weiß genau, dass alles besser werden kann. Wenn ich ganz fest dran glaub, schaff ich es irgendwann.
All of my life I've been running from the gun. Under the gun, I know I got this right.
Komm, wir bringen die Welt zum Leuchten. Egal woher du kommst. Zu Hause ist da, wo deine Freunde sind. Hier ist die Liebe umsonst. Zu Hause ist da, wo deine Freunde sind. Zu Hause ist da, wo deine Freunde sind. Thank you very much. Dankeschön.
Hey, thank you.
Vielen, vielen, vielen Dank.
Dankeschön.
Vielen
Danke
Dank an
vielmals.
Matthias, vielen Dank an Adel.
Thank you very much.
Diesen wunderschönen Song haben die Zuhause genannt. Denn für die beiden, für den jüdischen Reggae-Künstler und den deutschen Adel
We shall meet them all both later. Ladies and gentlemen, the federal president and Mrs. Schutt. Please welcome the president of Germany and Mrs. Schutt.
Beginning of the European opening ceremonies for the European Maccabi Games. And now it's we have a female, I think it's Polina Brzezinski. She'll be speaking in German, and there's obviously someone who will be speaking, a man. I do not have his name. They're going to put his name up on the screen, I'm sure. And he'll be speaking in English. We just saw Tewil and Matisyahu perform together. And now we're seeing the opening of the ceremony. So hopefully there'll be more formal shots in a moment. Again, very soon we will have the opening statement by the President of Germany. At least that's what's scheduled. And then we'll have the beginning of the procession of all of the athletes participating in the Maccabi Games. Micah?
I think it's important to get a little perspective of what this Coliseum is. The Coliseum was built by Hitler for the Games in '36. What's important also is it was named Dietrich Eckart. Dietrich Eckart was his mentor, was Hitler's mentor. A mentor intellectually, mentor culturally, and he was a major part also of the Beer Hall Putsch. He was a racist of the highest order, and it was his writing that actually grabbed Hitler as a kid, as a child. So it's important that that ideology be understood, even as we look at the creation of that building, the institution itself, the Olympic Plaza, as it's known as. It's sort of interesting to get a sense of that, because everything that Hitler did had purpose. It had perspective. It was done not haphazardly, but for a real objective. Naming it after his mentor was critical in terms of explaining to the world that that was his perspective. And it's very important now that it's been renamed and that it's used now for this purpose, to even house the Maccabean Games of the European.
Yes.
So it's taking from one side to go to the next.
We are waiting. You saw on screen that dignitaries have entered the Amphitheater Coliseum. In a moment, we're going to be waiting for the entry and remarks of the president, the federal president of Germany, and we're just waiting for him to come to the stage. So, well, let's go back and hear what they're saying.
I recognize the man, I just don't remember.
ברוכים הבאים למשלחת בישראל. איזה כיף לראות את כולכם כאן הערב הזה בכחול לבן. המשלחת הראשונה שנכנסת לעולם. ערב טוב לכם, ברוכים הבאים, וערב טוב לצופים שלנו בארץ. Good evening and welcome. ברוכים הבאים. ערב טוב. ברוכים הבאים, דקמן.
Liebe Israel-Delegation, herzlich willkommen in Berlin. Herzlich willkommen in der Waldbühne und herzlich willkommen bei den European Maccabi Games 2015. Hallo, Shalom. Hallo, hallo.
118, überhaupt nicht schlecht,
118 Athleten.
118, ja.
So we now see the beginning of the actual march parade of all the athletes into the amphitheater, into the Coliseum. And Micah, there we have the Israeli team coming in first.
Yes. Oh, there's no question about that. They're wearing their they're wearing their helmets there, which is sort of interesting. Each team, I suppose, each sport's wearing their hat, which is blue and white. Is obviously the color of the Maccabi, but it's also the colors of Israel, which is it overlaps in that way.
And of course, we also see flags draped around many of the athletes. Peter, as you watch this, what goes through your mind?
It's a very emotional moment. I mean, to see this going on in Berlin and to see how the Jewish world is coming together in a way that is just spectacular in Berlin. And they were announcing that there were 118 Israeli athletes that were leading the group. So, you know, for all of us who have a sense of a Jewish soul, which all of us, I guess, do, it is a very emotional thing to see.
Yes. By the way, you sound like you're emotionally moved, especially because this relates to your own family background.
To know that my parents had to escape, and my father being so involved in athletics, and to think about, gee, if he could have seen this, it would have been an incredible moment, and I'm seeing it for him.
What do you think about Micah? This perspective that Peter reminds us that at one point this would have been unthinkable for his father.
Yeah, the reality is that this is personal. It's not just personal for Peter, it's personal for the Jewish people. And it's beyond belief, because Jews go back, and it's not like going to, walking into Auschwitz. It's not like walking into a Birkenau. What it is it's going here and participating in the Jewish sports. It's not just paying tribute and memory. It's also doing things that they weren't allowed to do in the very place that they were prohibited to do it. And so it's learning about it, it's realizing the past, and it's saying now we have a new future, a great future. And that great future is wrapped up in who we are as a people, which connects to its past. And we're people with a great past and with some horrific elements of that history. And we're embracing those horrific parts also. We're not running away from them. And that's why this is so powerful. And it's more powerful than it was in Vienna, let's say, for instance. And it's more powerful even than it would be if it were in 2 years, as it's going to be in Tel Aviv again. Okay, it's in Israel again. That's the difference. It's exciting to connect the past with the future through our youth. And remember, they're youth that are here. The sports is about youth. And when Avery Brundage said, this is not a political event in 1936 Olympics, he was correct that sports is supposed to be elevated above politics. The problem is that he was, in his own behavior, he was wrong. He acted politically, and that was a big deal.
We're seeing other nations now enter the arena, and we saw a group just a moment ago on screen, and they were so excited. Here's Argentina coming in, but it was clear, Peter, how excited the kids were about being there. And Ron Carner, who is the president of Maccabi USA, and we ran his appearance on L'Chaim just before the show, both last night and this morning or this afternoon. And he talked about what it's like to be in that procession, because at some point adults are involved, or the adults who are involved come in.
This is really critical. That's the Australian team.
Yes.
In the 15th in the 15th Maccabi, the bridge collapsed in Tel Aviv, and 4 Australian athletes were killed at the Maccabi, and 60 were wounded. It was a terrible, and they wanted to boycott the Maccabias from that point on. It was a very, very, very problematic and scandalous period. So to see a group there is very, very important.
They're back.
So
Good
I just
for
want
them.
that to be clear. It was a devastating blow to the Maccabi that the bridge collapsed and these young athletes were killed. They were actually killed. They died actually also from consuming the river water below also, which was very, very bad. Yeah, from the arc.
A real tragedy.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, Jews are no stranger to Olympic tragedy. And the reason there are 11 motorcyclists who are recreating the route that cyclists took back in 1932. They left in 31 in anticipation of the 1932 Olympic Maccabi Games in Tel Aviv. Those were the first games held in Eretz Yisrael. It was still pre-state Palestine in 1932. But there were 11 of them, and that is why there are 11 cyclists this year who recreated the route. As I said, the difference is that they made a stop in Auschwitz, and they carried with them the Maccabi Olympic flame. But when you mention 11 in the context of anything having to do with Olympics, whether it's the Maccabi or the International Olympics, Mikey, you've got to think of the tragedy in 1972 in the
Also
Olympic
in
Games in Munich. That is right. And I don't know if either you or Peter have had you've in any way associated the 72 experience that Israel had with our being there in Berlin. For me, I've given a lot of thought this past week. It's in some way always on my mind, but this week, especially as we prepared to bring this broadcast to our viewers on JBS, the tragedy of the 11 Olympic athletes who were ultimately murdered in a Palestinian attack in the Munich Games was on my mind. Any comment?
Yeah, you can't but deal with them together. You can't unwrap it.
Yes.
Actually, so much that many students, for years I taught this material, many students would refer to and mistakenly refer to the 36 Olympics in Munich because it was so much a part of their memory was the Munich Olympics, not the 36 Olympics in Berlin. It was a classic mistake, not one that I took off points for, by the way, because because it was so psychologically ingrained in them. In fact, we're lucky that they even knew about Munich, right? But that's a different story. That said, you can't unwrap this. You have to put it together because the concept of Germany, even though they're very different cities, very different cultures, very different historical environments, the tragedy of Germany and the Jewish people is wrapped up into one.
Yes.
And you can't do it. And periods of time, yes, we can look at different periods and different things, and we have to ferret them out, but you have to also realize that there's a culture of Germany. And it's very, very interesting. One of the investigations into the Munich massacre, they asked the security guards, why were these doors not secured? Why were they not locked? And why were they not posted with guards? And the German response was there was a sign which says, athletes only, do not enter. As if that was to stop the terrorists from going through. It's sort of strange. It's written down so people, I almost feel like we're talking about the Iranian deal. It's written so they're going to obviously go by what's written down on the deal. It says, do not enter, athletes only, as if the terrorists are not going to go through. And it's an interesting idea.
But one thing, Mark, that really comes to mind for me is the fact that Germany has made enormous strides in trying to embrace the whole Israeli and Jewish issue. They've invited Holocaust survivors to come to Germany. They have, in fact, invited people to witness what's called the Stolperstein movement, where they, in fact, put a brass brick in front of the homes where the people who actually perished in the Holocaust, with their names and their dates and so on. And my son represented our family in that process this last year. And I must say, every time he spoke about it, it was so moving, and it was so well covered in Germany. So, you know, I have to give the Germans a lot of credit, and the fact that Holocaust education is mandatory in Germany, and that young people whose, as you say, the children should not be the victims of the fathers before, or they carry that. They are, and they have to deal, in fact, with the fact that their grandparents or parents could have been perpetrators, and they're doing a lot in that area.
No, there's no question. One of the most important elements of how Germany has come to grips with this, and how Israel has become their friend, is that they've recognized that they did wrong. And that's a major element in what we're actually moving towards the high holidays already. So the major element in tshuva, in repentance, is recognizing that you did the wrong thing. And they recognize that. Unlike many other cultures in European society today that say that they were victims themselves. As opposed to saying that we did wrong. And that's a major statement. It's very, very important. The context is important also. It's important that this is happening in Germany. It was a good idea to bring it, but it wouldn't have been a good idea 10 years ago. I don't know that 10 years ago the Jewish people could have been prepared for this. I don't know that Israel would have been prepared for this, despite Israel's growth in this matter. I think that right now Israel is at a good stage in that with Germany and with its understanding of Holocaust. And I also think that we're at the stage now with European anti-Semitism, a topic that we spoke about earlier, but I think it's worth getting back to, where we have to underscore that European anti-Semitism is rising. And so it's important to have not Jewish presence qua for the purpose of being there, but rather a Jewish element of pride, and leadership of European society, especially Germany, should step up and say, we embrace Jewish life, Jewish, not existence, Jewish life, Jewish creativity, Jewish civilization, Jewish society, etc.
I want to ask each of you to comment from your own perspective on an issue that we hear more and more being spoken about on the Jewish scene, and in some way, I also want to know whether this event, as we watch it together and as we watch it with the entire JBS audience throughout America, whether it plays into your thinking at all. There are those who say it's time for the Jews of Europe to leave. There's a suggestion that the Jews of France should literally get up and leave, whether they make Aliyah, and that's the overwhelming suggestion, or whether they come to America or somewhere else. Micah, is European Jewry over? And as you answer that question, put it in the backdrop of Berlin hosting the 2015 European Maccabi Games.
There is a fear that goes, literally a chill that goes down the spine of many European Jews. And there are multiple elements within the Jewish community. Everyone feels the threat of anti-Semitism. Every Jew feels the threat of anti-Semitism there. The question is whether or not they feel as if they've assimilated and acculturated into the world well enough, or if they're remaining separate. And that's an interesting communal debate within the various Jewish communities in Europe. Is there a future for European Jewry? I hope there is. I hope there is. Is it shrinking? There is. It's shrinking for multiple reasons. One of them is total assimilation because of the nature of assimilation. The other, though, is that many affiliated Jews, connected Jews, are having real difficulty with the anti-Semitism and are going to Israel. And because that's the place where they feel safest. And there's no question about that. So is it a dying community? Some of them are dying. Some of them are dying quickly. But you also have communities that are resuscitating, that are getting breaths of great air. This is Great Britain that's coming in.
England is coming in to these games in Berlin, 2015, Maccabi Games, European Games. It's very moving, by the way, and we've had, the Jewish people have had a very interesting, long history with Great Britain, Micah.
Yes. Oh, there's a tremendous history, and there's a love-hate relationship, obviously.
Yes. I mean, the Balfour Declaration comes out of Great Britain. And
so does the
also,
White Paper.
and the White Paper comes out of Great Britain. The White Paper, of course, restricted Jewish immigration to Palestine. And part of the real problem the Jewish people faced as the Holocaust became more and more severe and Jews were more and more in danger, and
It was
literally
the closing of the gates of Palestine at the
Exactly
time.
right. And this was done by the British.
Right.
Yes.
And all wrapped up into the same story that we're talking about.
Yes.
Which is, it's all integrated and interrelated.
Now understand, you're watching Jewish kids from Great Britain coming to Berlin to participate in the Maccabi games. How does that make you feel?
Well, you know, what's great to see is that these kids are all together. These Jewish kids from all these different countries are able to spend time together and to share probably the greatest moment in their lives, which they will never forget. And for them, it'll be something extremely special. And but Mark, to address your question from before about European Jewry.
Yes.
Carol and I just recently came back from France.
Yes.
We were in Paris, and Carol has a first cousin who lives in Paris, who is our age. And she's very concerned, not as much for themselves, because for them it's not as critical as it is for their children and grandchildren. And they're very concerned, and they make the very important point that besides going and making Aliyah to Israel, many French are in fact going to Berlin. And it's an incredible thing, right? To even think in those terms. When they said that, I almost couldn't believe it. And it's quite a realization for European Jewry to, in fact, have that kind of degree of comfort, to make a move like that.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Although I asked both of you whether you think those who are arguing that European Jewry should leave Europe, are they making, in your mind, the correct argument? Now, Micah, you seem to say no.
Well, when the Prime Minister of Israel came to Paris after the terrible Charlie Hebdo massacre, the terrorist attacks, which included the Jewish Makkolet, the Jewish store, he said, he clearly said, come home to Israel. Europe is not a place for you. And the Jewish community of Paris was insulted by the statements. And he was told in advance not to say that, but you can't tell the Prime Minister of Israel what to say and what not to say. And it was an impassioned plea that you can't be saved. We can't protect you here. You can only really be protected in Israel itself. And that's important. There were 4 groups. The Maccabi games are divided into 4 groups of age groups. So when you're looking at the athletes coming in, you're looking at juniors who are 15 to 18-year-olds. So they really do look like they're children. They are children, that's why. You have your main athletes, which are your the main events. You have your seniors, who are the older people who are going to, and you're going to see them. They're not just chaperones, they're actually senior athletes. And then you have the para-Maccabis, so the Paralympics, so to speak, for the disabled, which is very, very important here. And they're all having events interacting with one another. These kinds of events, like the parade, brings them all together. Their athletic events, obviously, are separate. So that's why you're seeing these different age groups as they're entering into the
arena.
Yeah, the Waldbunde.
Do you want to comment on whether you think European Jewry should leave?
Yeah, I could do that a little bit, even though I'm not European. I can only
your parents fled Vienna.
Right. They fled because my parents were threatened and had to leave. It was right after the Anschluss in 1938, and my father was a fireman in Vienna and got word from his best friend, who also happened to be Jewish in the fire department, that they were looking specifically for them. So they had a direct threat on their lives, and they had to leave. If they stayed, who would know what would have happened to them? So, interestingly enough, there's enough underground and enough underneath going on in Europe today where many are in fact leaving. And it's hard to leave. It's hard to pick up and leave. And I understand that those French that are in fact moving to Israel, that it's kind of like a commute for the breadwinner. They go to Israel, but there's no way for them to make a real living. So then they go back to France and go back to their jobs and then commute back and forth. So they have that open there, but can you imagine just picking up and leaving and then commuting like that? It's a very difficult thing. And it's obviously a severe feeling enough that they're doing it.
This is the Hungarian team that's coming in now, which is suffering its own form of anti-Semitism.
Yes.
It's been in the news itself. Every time I look at the screen, there's the half of a Magen David there, half a Star of David. It almost looks like, it's a poor design as far as it almost looks like the Canadian maple leaf. You'll see it in a second when the red comes in. So like, why is the Canadian maple leaf up there? Maybe it's the Canadian team, but it's not. It's there. It's half of a Star of David there.
I find it so interesting that these Maccabi games evoke this kind of discussion. And it's an honest discussion, because you can't say Berlin, Germany, Munich, in a Jewish context and not have all kinds of ambivalent feelings. So that, again, the significance of these games cannot be underestimated, Micah. The fact that the Jewish people have come to Germany to celebrate Jewish identity, and that's what this is. It's done in an athletic context, but this is Jewish identity on display for the world to see. Why am I so thrilled that we're able to, show this on JBS? And it's because it is a statement of Jewish identity worldwide, and it's enormously impressive. And at the same time, it reminds all of us of a horrific moment in human history in which the Jew was the ultimate victim and was also the quintessential survivor. There's the Magen David, the half of it that Mike feels reminds him more of the Toronto Maple Leafs than the state of Israel.
Especially when there's a red background on it, when the red background.
And I want to go on record, and I've said this at other times, and it needs amplification. But my own feeling is that the Jew should never leave anywhere, anytime, anymore because of persecution. That in fact, the United States of America and every civilized country should stand up and demand the governments of any nation in which there is anti-Semitism put a stop to it. One of the things that's often pointed out, Micah, is that this is not governmental, institutionalized anti-Semitism in Western Europe. At the same time, it is being tolerated to one degree or another by governments which we have treaties with. And ultimately, I want Jews to be able to be free to live anywhere, anytime on the face of this earth. That includes, by the way, what is known as the West Bank. Jews should be allowed to live anywhere in peace, and no piece of earth should be Judenrein. And I understand that there are problems, and I'm not critical of any Jew who says we are leaving because the threat to our children and our grandchildren and ourselves is simply too great. But I find it, I'm sorry, a little bit of a Jewish failure if we now live in a world where Jews can be thrown out of a land because it is too hostile to them.
I can only say that I agree with you there, but the reality is, despite your desire that you don't want people to leave because of those that hatred, there is enormous hatred.
Yes.
And there's also violence.
Yes.
And we have it even here in the United States.
Although at a very, very, very
we have
small
violence
scale.
against, just recently, a Bukharian Jew was run over multiple times in Brooklyn because he was Jewish. It was an ugly, ugly situation. Obviously, in the United States, we have far less than anywhere else. But there's anti-Semitism in places that shouldn't have anti-Semitism because they're Western civilized societies. We're not talking about in the middle of Iran. We're not talking about in the Islamic world. We're talking about in Europe. We're talking about places where this kind of hatred should not exist. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
We're watching the 2015 Maccabi European Maccabi opening ceremonies from Berlin, Germany, as Jewish kids from one country after another, and Micah points out they're not all children, but as the participants from every country in these Maccabi games are entering, what's the name of this stadium
Mexico.
again?
Oh, this is the Valdebune, which is an amphitheater just across from the stadium itself.
Yes, and it's part of Olympic Park.
So it's Olympic Park
in Berlin.
It's interesting. It's called amphitheater, but it doesn't need to be because it means the wood. Wald in Germany means wood,
Yes.
the forest.
So it's a
the forest
redundancy.
theater, forest theater amphitheater, but it is the
Meine Damen und Herren, heißt mit uns die nächste Delegation herzlich willkommen, die Niederlande.
okay, this is the Netherlands.
But we were interrupting our coverage of the 2015 European Maccabi Games for a special bulletin. It has just been announced that on November 20th, Jonathan Pollard will be released from prison. Jonathan Pollard will be released from prison on November 20th, 2015. And, you know, this has been an issue of enormous Jewish concern for many, many, many years. And Jonathan Pollard is serving basically a life sentence. Some people feel that he received a sentence that no similar spy has ever received, and that there was a anti-Semitic overtone to it. But it's interesting that administration after administration, whether it's Democrat or Republican, has refused to release Jonathan Pollard. And for a long time, even the state of Israel basically abandoned him. It's a very complicated case, but for many in the Jewish community, the fact that he was still in prison was a symbol of something that was very, very upsetting. And Micah, on November 20th, he will be released after 30 years in prison.
Yes, it is. Hopefully, this will be the case. Hopefully, it will happen. Remember, at the Wye River Treaty,
Bill Clinton
wanted, and it was a part of the deal, and it was pulled back at the last minute. Sharansky said that when he got on the plane to come back for his daughter's bat mitzvah, Pollard was a part of the deal. When he got off the plane, it was removed. So until Pollard is out, I will hold my breath. I will say, though, that there is no question in my mind that the decision to release Pollard now after 30 years on the date, by the way, that he's supposed to appear before the parole board. That's what the date. That's the importance of the date.
November 20th.
Is to soften or make less bitter the pill of the Iranian deal, which is very, very important. So it's for Israel. It doesn't make the deal with Iran any better. It makes it less bitter. And so it's an important, and bitter in German it's a word play. But better,
Yeah.
Which is interesting also. That said.
But do you think that's true?
Oh, there's no question.
Do you think either the Israeli people, the Israeli government, or American Jewry will feel any differently about the Iran deal because Pollard is being released?
I think it'll make it easier to swallow.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't think.
I think
I'm
it'll be
sorry.
easier to swallow.
They're totally disconnected.
I think that there's
One
no
thing
question in my mind that the administration has put that
The deal
together.
has problems on the face of the deal,
Yes.
and Pollard's being released does not change any of the problems with the deal.
Correct. I said it doesn't make it better, but it makes it easier to swallow.
It doesn't.
Israel knows full well that they're going to have to deal with this this Iranian issue, and now at least they get something out of it. At least they got Pollard out of it.
Okay,
And,
I want to go on record. I'm not impressed. At the same time, it's important for you to know, on November 20th, Jonathan Pollard will finally be released.
Hopefully.
And Micah's point is, he's been very close before, and it was members of the CIA and that community which have constantly been able to convince administrations, presidents of the United States, that he did something, but we don't know what it is. There's clearly something we don't know, but that he did something so onerous, so egregious, that he does not merit being released from prison. So Micah is saying, okay, we have a date now, November 20th. Let's wait till November 20th to see if it happens, yes?
Correct.
Okay. Anyway, it's breaking news. We wanted to interrupt for one moment our coverage of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we continue as you see the close of the parade of all of the athletes into the stadium, and then a series of speeches. You'll see the not only the national anthem of Germany, but the national anthem of Israel. And but it has been wonderful having you here for this part of our coverage, and you do fabulous work in every way, in your writing, in your speaking, in your teaching, and on JBS, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Peter will still be here when we return, so stay with us on JBS, Expanding Jewish Understanding, celebrating all things Jewish.
Watch IBA News every day on JBS. Monday through Thursday at 6 p.m. and Friday through Sunday at 5 p.m. Followed by JBS News Update with Tisha Bader. Only on JBS. Did you miss a program on JBS you really wanted to see? Well, if you use the internet, it's so easy to watch almost any JBS program whenever you want to. Simply Google the name of the guest or program you'd like to watch and add JBS, and presto, the program should pop up on your screen. Missed our exclusive coverage of Bret Stephens on his new book, America in Retreat? Google Bret Stephens, JBS, and there it is. Missed Ari Shavit's in-depth interview on L'chaim? Google Ari Shavit, L'chaim, JBS, and there it is. Want to watch JBS's tour of Karnei Shomron? Google Karnei Shomron, JBS, and it pops right up. So don't forget to set your DVR to record your favorite JBS programs. But remember, JBS programs on demand are only a click away. JBS, Expanding Jewish Understanding.
Shalom, I'm Erin Viner of IBA News, inviting you to stay in touch with Israel through IBA's daily newscast from Jerusalem, right here on JBS, celebrating all things Jewish.
Stay connected with all things Jewish. Follow JBS on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, jbstv.org. Enjoy the excitement and panorama of Jewish life today on JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, featuring daily news from Israel, an array of Jewish studies, live Sabbath and holiday services, programs from the 92nd Street Y, and major event coverage, Jewish films, children's programming, and in-depth interviews with leading Jewish figures, all on JBS.
Welcome to Berlin, my city. The city without walls. Not in the streets and not in the minds. I'll show you Berlin, my city, our capital city, the city with the largest Jewish community in Germany. The symbol of unification, reunification, of East and West, of the people. The city of tolerance, of the future, of music, culture and sport. I'm inviting you to Berlin. Pack your gym bag, start training. Come to Berlin. Come visit me. Come to the European Maccabi Games 2015. We're inviting you to a big festival, to the 50th birthday of the diplomatic relations between Israel and Germany, and to the 50th birthday of Maccabi Germany. Celebrate with us. Experience Berlin. Experience Maccabi. Experience the team spirit of thousands of Jewish athletes from all over Europe. Experience the enthusiasm for sports in Germany. Make history. Be part of the first European Maccabi Games in Germany since World War II. Enjoy the fact that this is good, that this is right, that this is natural. Experience the hospitality of Berlin, the city of reunification. In 1989, the reunification of a country. In 2015, the reunification of many nations. Of the international Maccabi family with Germany. Show how special you are. Just like Berlin is special. You go well together. You both are unique. You are unique. As a person. As an athlete. Berlin is unique. As a city. As a symbol. Together you will become a new symbol for sports, for people. A symbol of the future at the European Maccabi Games 2015 in Berlin.
JBS presents live from Olympic Park in Berlin, Germany. The opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games.
And we're back, and you're watching live as the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games continue. I'm here with Peter Lilienthal, and Peter will try to do some translation for us, some sort of conceptual translation if it turns out we need it. At the moment, you're seeing Polina Roginski on stage. We're not sure who the man is. They haven't put up any graphics. We thought they would. Again, this is a feed that's being broadcast in Germany, and we're showing it to you on JBS so that all of you throughout America can participate in what is really Jewish history in the making. We have already had the procession of all of the athletes into the stadium, and according to their program, we're waiting for Joachim Gach to come in and address the crowd. Sloan, let's hear some of the audio.
365, das heißt ein Teilnehmer für jeden Tag des Jahres, oder?
Ja. Schalt ja.
Ladies and gentlemen, and last but not least, the biggest delegation, the house delegation with 365 athletes. We are welcoming now. Please welcome the delegation of Germany.
And as we said,
welcome Germany.
The last group to enter the arena, the amphitheater,
2015,
is from the host country, Germany. And Peter, we're watching young Jews who are part of the Maccabi Games and who live in Berlin or other parts of Germany come into the Maccabi Games to participate with their fellow Jews from all over the world.
You know, what came to mind, Mark, was the fact that perception sometimes is reality. And I don't know to what extent this broadcast is in fact going throughout Europe. You would think that it would be, right?
You think so?
And if it is, even if it's not, even if it's more of a local thing, that this has to have a huge impact on the general kind of impression that Europe has with regard to the kind of participation, as Mika said before, with regard to who the Jews are, what they are, and the fact is that they're like everybody, we're just like everybody else. And this happens to be our ability to show our athleticism together and as a community, as a Jewish community. And it's got to have to have somewhat of an impact.
Lovely said. And yet I'm just moved when I see the joy of these young people who are coming in. And again, I want to impress upon everyone watching, what we have here is the Jewish family from all over the world. You know, people say, what are Jews? Are Jews a race? We are not a race. There are many racial elements that go into being Jewish and that comprise the Jewish people. Are we a religion? We're not a religion. We may have a way of life that we call Torah. Torah is the best equivalent of the English word Judaism. But there are Jews who have very little contact with, and sometimes no contact at all with, belief and God and synagogue and ritual and Judaism. But they're part of the Jewish family. If somebody says, what is a Jew? What is a Jew a member of? A Jew is a member of a family with family members who live all over the globe. And that, Peter, is what we're seeing in such a concrete, visually powerful way. All these young people who are participating in the Maccabi Games from all the countries that we showed earlier, beginning with Israel and ending with Germany. They're all one family. They happen to live in various places around the globe, and they come together under an umbrella called the Maccabi Games.
You know, the word that came to mind just now, Mark, was the idea of sort of like a reunion.
Yes.
You know, you have Jews from all over the world getting together and bonding together in a time they'll never forget, and probably making friendships that will last forever from all over the world. And it's one thing to be Jewish in a particular country. Well, of course, we know with Israel, but any of these European countries, many of these Jews may very well at this point, with considering the issue of anti-Semitism that we were talking about before, that they feel quite isolated. But here they are. They're all getting together, and to what extent of impact it's got to have in each one of these.
It is thrilling. It's thrilling to watch, Peter. And again, it's why we're showing it to you on JBS. This is the only place in America right now where you can watch the Olympic ceremonies that begin the 2015 European Maccabi Games. And I want to once again thank Ron Carner, who's the president of Maccabi USA, and all the people who were in Berlin. And Serge Goldberg is our production coordinator, chief engineer. He's standing right to my left right now. Serge, you were on the phone day after day. You were emailing day after day with a whole group of people in Berlin, and they made this possible so that Americans, Jews and non-Jews, can see and be touched and be moved by this extraordinary ceremony. Sloan, we're going to pick up the audio and see what's going on.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, meine Damen und Herren, Gvirotai v'Rabotai, Mesdames et Messieurs, the orchestra, the musicians right behind me were specially united and put together for this inspiring special evening conducted by Roy Oppenheim.
Bitte einen Applaus für unser Orchester.
Der Chef der Orchester, unser Dirigent, der Conductor, Roy Oppenheim. תודה רבה.
This orchestra is comprised of Jews and non-Jews, Israelis, Germans, and they're playing at the 2015 opening ceremonies of the Maccabi Games.
My name is Riley Willow. I'm a singer in tonight's opening ceremony. My grand aunt, Dora Wilimowski, was a very famous singer, opera singer here in Berlin. In 1943, she was deported to Auschwitz, where she was forced to sing in front of the officers. Tonight, I'm closing a circle by making my grandfather's dream come true while singing to you here in Waldbühne.
Bitte erheben Sie sich für die deutsche Nationalhymne.
Please be seated. Ich möchte hiermit den Bundespräsidenten Joachim Gauck dazu einladen, offiziell die European Maccabi Games 2015 zu eröffnen. Mr. President.
Sehr geehrter Herr Mayer, Exzellenzen, sehr geehrter Herr Minister, Herr regierender Bürgermeister, Herr Bundesminister, lieber Herr Dr. Schuster, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, liebe Freunde der European Maccabi Games und vor allem liebe Sportlerinnen und Sportler, herzlich willkommen in Deutschland, herzlich willkommen in Berlin.
Peter, you're going to try to give us a sense of what he's saying.
Right, I'll try my best.
Der also zur älteren Generation gehört, da ist das schon etwas ganz Besonderes, auch für mich als Bürger.
It's great to hear from, see many generations of
Zum
people
ersten
here.
Mal findet die größte jüdische Veranstaltung Europas, die
This is the
europäischen
greatest
Maccabi-Spiele
Jewish
hier in
presentation
Deutschland statt.
here in Europe.
Und darüber freue ich
Jewish
mich sehr.
presentation here in Europe.
Auch deshalb, ja, auch deshalb. Auch deshalb, weil wir in diesem Jahr 50 Jahre diplomatische Beziehungen zwischen Deutschland und Israel feiern. Herr Botschafter, Herr Minister, große Freude, Sie hier zu haben.
We're very pleased at this time to have this kind of
Nicht
relationship with
nur
Israel.
für uns Deutsche und unsere israelischen Freunde ist es ein wichtiges Ereignis, auch
This is
unsere
very
europäischen
important for
Nachbarn
the German
nebenan
and Israeli
großen
relationship.
Anteil. Die große, ja historische Bedeutung dieser Spiele hier auf dem Maifeld in Berlin können wir ermessen.
It's great history of this kind of an event right here in Germany, and to have Israel and Germany work together.
Hier, auch diese Waldbühne gehören ja zum Olympiagelände, das 1936 Schauplatz der Olympischen Spiele war, als Deutschland von den Nationalsozialisten regiert wurde und als antijüdische Aktionen,
The
Diskriminierung,
the impact today, being able to be a contra to the Nazi approach in 1936, and to be able to show this here today is our pleasure.
Aus dem Land ihrer Mütter und Väter ins Exil freier Staaten gerettet hatten oder nach Palästina ausgewandert waren und anfingen, sich dort eine neue Heimat aufzubauen.
To be able to discuss the movement of whatever German Jews could go to Israel to form, or to Palestine at the time, to form their new lives.
Sie sind in ihrem hohen Alter noch mal hierher gekommen und haben all diesen jungen Leuten erzählt von damals, und trotzdem feiern sie heute mit uns. Wie schön. Danke sehr.
And we are very pleased, and we're very happy that we're here today, and that we can enjoy the presence of these Jewish children here.
Dass sich ausgerechnet hier auf diesem Gelände, im Schatten des Olympiastadions, jüdische Sportler aus aller Welt versammeln, um sich im sportlichen Wettstreit zu messen. Ich freue mich und empfinde es als bedeutungsvoll, dass Sie sich diesen Ort ausgesucht haben. Und ich bin sehr bewegt, dass dieses Land und diese Stadt nun die jüdischen Spiele sehen werden.
I am so pleased that we here can host this kind of a Jewish competition right here in Berlin.
Meine Damen und Herren, kann man es auch so sagen. In gewisser Weise ist Maccabi damit zu seinen Wurzeln zurückgekehrt. Maccabi is coming home, kann man da vielleicht sagen.
Well, you just heard it in English that Maccabi is coming home.
Die Maccabi-Sportbewegung, die nicht zuletzt auf einen jüdischen Turnverein zurückgeht, der hier in Berlin gegründet wurde, war auch eine Antwort auf wachsende Judenfeindlichkeit damals in der Gesellschaft.
Well, to hear that the Jüdischen Turnverein, that's the Jewish athletic organizations, can come over here and to be in Berlin is our pleasure.
Oder dort als Mitglieder zweiter Klasse behandelt. Der Wunsch, sich im Verein sportlich zu betätigen, Wettkampf und Kameradschaft zu erleben, war aber stark. Die jüdische Turnbewegung,
The wish to have this going on here in Berlin
verbreitete sich dann schnell
is
auch
quite
in anderen
an
Ländern
accomplishment and
und wurde
wonderful thing.
international, auch mit internationalen Wettkämpfen. Und nun also, nach so vielen Wendungen der Geschichte, sind hier auf dem ehemaligen Reichssportfeld jüdische Sportler aus allen Teilen der Welt, aus Israel und darüber hinaus versammelt im friedlichen sportlichen Wettbewerb.
To be able to, considering the history, have all these wonderful things taking place here in Germany and in
Manche
Berlin.
kommen als Studenten, sehr viele als Touristen, manche kommen wieder und viele bleiben auch hier. Es freut mich, dass von den neuen Freunden Berlins sehr, sehr viele aus Israel kommen oder aber jüdische Wurzeln haben. Ein wunderbares Geschenk und ein großartiger Vertrauensbeweis für unser Deutschland heute.
Well, we welcome you all now as tourists, and hopefully you come here more often.
Berlin ist eine Stadt, in der hinter jeder Ecke eine Geschichte von früher verborgen ist. Überall begegnet einem hier freiwillig oder unfreiwillig Vergangenheit. Vielmehr noch aber scheint gerade Sie, die jungen Menschen, anzuziehen, dass Berlin eine Stadt der Zukunft geworden ist. Eine Stadt der Pläne, der Visionen, der neuen Ideen und des Mutes, etwas Neues anzufangen. Was für ein schöner Rahmen für die European Maccabi Games 2015.
We as a city are so pleased to move forward to the future
Meine Damen und Herren, liebe
and to welcome you
Sportlerinnen und
all.
Sportler, jetzt wünsche ich Ihnen allen diesen Geist der Toleranz und des Verständnisses, den Geist einer guten gemeinsamen Zukunft für uns alle. Mögen Sie alle ganz unvergessliche, schöne Spiele erleben und heitere Sommertage in Berlin. Und jetzt kommt der wichtige Satz: Die 14. European Maccabi Games sind eröffnet.
We wish you great success in this coming competition, and now
Vielen herzlichen Dank,
we now open the games.
unser Bundespräsident Joachim Gauck. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, der Präsident von Maccabi Deutschland und Vorsitzender der Europäischen Maccabi Games, Herr Alon Meyer.
This is the head of the Maccabi Games of Germany, Mr. Meyer.
Sehr geehrter Bundespräsident, dear Deputy Prime Minister of the State of Israel, sehr geehrte Mitglieder der Bundes- und Landesregierungen, dear President of the World Jewish Congress, sehr geehrter Herr Zentralratspräsident, Mitglieder des Bundestags und Landesparlamente der Kommunen, sehr geehrter Herr Botschafter und Mitglieder des Diplomatischen Korps, sehr geehrte Ehrengäste, liebe Damen und Herren, liebe Makkabäer, dear Maccabi! Es ist ein besonderer Moment und er könnte emotionaler.
This is just a phenomenal event.
Nicht sein. 2300 jüdische Sportlerinnen und Sportler aus
2,300 Jewish athletes that are coming here to Berlin.
Dieser Moment gehört zuallererst euch, liebe Sportlerinnen und Sportler. Herzlich willkommen in Deutschland. Bruchim abayim le Germania. Bienvenido a Alemania and welcome to Germany.
Well, he kind of said it, but it's a pleasure to welcome
Für
you
die
all.
allermeisten von Ihnen schließt sich mit der Teilnahme an der größten jüdischen Veranstaltung Europas, die zum ersten Mal nach Ende des Zweiten Weltkriegs auf deutschem Boden stattfindet, ein großer, von Emotionen gefüllter und mit viel Hoffnung verbundener Kreis.
We're hopeful of having with this wonderful Jewish competition in Europe.
Und dafür hätte es keinen symbolträchtigerer Stadt geben können wie Berlin. Hier in Berlin beginnt die Geschichte.
Right here in Berlin.
Hier in Berlin wurde vor 112 Jahren der Vorläufer der Maccabi-Bewegung gegründet, nämlich die Internationale Jüdische Turnerschaft. Berlin wurde somit zur Wiege der jüdischen Sportwelt. 1919 gründete die deutsche Delegation in der jüdischen Turnerschaft in Deutschland.
Just repeating the history, going back to 1919.
Repräsentanten aus 9 Ländern hier in Berlin unter der Leitung von Dr. Heinrich Kuhn, die Maccabi World Union. Schon damals erkannte man die soziale und gesellschaftliche Wirkung des Sports. Vor allem seine Faszination und seine Kraft, Menschen aus verschiedenen Kulturen und Ländern zusammenzubringen.
Now we have people from many different cultures and land and countries here.
Die Blüte der 20er Jahre erlosch binnen kürzester Zeit. Diesen Zivilisationsbruch der Shoah spüren wir bis heute. Jeder von uns. Und in diesem Augenblick werden viele, auch an ihre eigene Familiengeschichte denken. An ihre Brüder und Schwestern, Eltern und Großeltern, vielleicht besonders Nancy Glickman und Ann Stoller von Maccabi USA. Nancys Vater Marty war als 18-Jähriger im US-Team für die Olympischen Sommerspiele 1936 in Berlin. Er gehörte zu den
Talking about the history of the many generations of Germans and Europeans who were affected by the times in the history, now going back to 1936.
Vor Beginn der Wettkämpfe teilt man ihm mit, dass seine Kollegen auch, Sam Stoller, ein zweiter jüdischer Sportler in der Delegation, nicht an den Olympischen
Speaking of the Jewish athletes in the past who could not compete at the German Olympics.
Die Familienangehörigen von Marty Glickman in Berlin und nehmen für die Vereinigten Staaten an den
Repeating
European
the
Maccabi Games
Marty
teil.
Glickman and
Vielleicht holen Sie
Stoller
sogar
and
eine
his
Medaille, die
inability
Ihrem
to compete in the
Großvater
German
verwehrt geblieben
Olympics.
ist. Sicher haben Sie aber die Ehre, die Fackel heute zu zünden.
And now we are certainly looking at a difference.
Auch für mich. Auch für mich.
Also for me.
Auch für mich. Mein Vater ist 1928 in Deutschland geboren. Er ist, was man ein
My father was born in 1928.
Seine Kindheit hat er in den Nationalsozialismus verloren. Der wachsende Judenhass in den 30er
grew up in
Jahren
Nazi
veranlasste meinen
Germany.
Großvater dazu, seine Heimat den Rücken zu kehren und nach Palästina auszuwandern. Dies hat der Familie meines Vaters schließlich das Leben gerettet. Sie sind den Zügen in den sicheren Tod im letzten Moment entkommen. Als Student kam mein Vater nach Deutschland zurück und wollte sich am Wiederaufbau des jüdischen Lebens in
My
der
father came back
Bundesrepublik
to
beteiligen.
Germany
Er war stolzer Jude,
and
aber eben
to study
auch stolzer Deutscher.
as a proud German.
1965 hauchte er der Maccabi-Bewegung neues Leben ein. und legte mit der Gründung von Maccabi Frankfurt gemeinsam mit vielen anderen mutigen Freunden in München, Köln, Berlin das Fundament, auf das die Maccabi-Bewegung in Deutschland heute steht.
Talking about the evolution of the Maccabi Games in Germany,
Dieser feierliche Moment, in
in
dem wir
various
Europa
cities.
und viele Teile der Welt für die nächsten 9 Tage als Gastgeber der größten jüdischen Veranstaltung Europas in Berlin begrüßen
Looking
dürfen,
forward to the
gehört
next
deshalb
9
vor allem auch
days
der Generation
of being a host to the
darunter Pioniere
Maccabi
wie
Games.
den ehemaligen Präsidenten Henry Meingarten, Peter Gutmann und Gideon Osterer, die Maccabi Deutschland und seine Ortsvereine nach schweren Zeiten mit viel Herz und Leidenschaft, aber auch mit viel Mut und Zuversicht wieder aufgebaut haben. Danke.
Well, we're looking forward to this next period of time. And
Heute, 50 Jahre später, soll der Beginn einer neuen Zeitrechnung werden. Wenn ich
today,
mich hier
50 years later,
natürlich besonders auf die deutsche Delegation blicke, die mit 365 Sportlern
there are
in 19 Sportarten in allen
365
zur größten
athletes,
in ihrer Geschichte gewachsen ist, geht mir das Herz auf.
and it
Vor allem, weil ich
warms my
sehe,
heart.
dass unsere jungen Menschen ein neues deutsch-jüdisches Selbstbewusstsein
And
und
we're looking for
Selbstverständnis
a
in sich tragen.
wonderful relationship between the
Vom
German
in
and
sich
the
gekehrten hin
Jewish
zu einem offenen, modernen,
youth.
frischen, jüdischen Leben in Deutschland und dass sie das
A
bei
fresh
diesen European Maccabi Games auch
feeling about
zum Ausdruck
Jewish
bringen.
life within Germany.
Wohingegen man sich bei der ersten Teilnahme Deutschlands an den Maccabi-Spielen 1969 in Israel schämte, die deutsche Fahne zu tragen, wird es heute als die größte Ehre überhaupt empfunden. Für unsere Sportler ist es kein Thema mehr, in den Nationalfarben Deutschlands einzulaufen, denn sie sind mit Deutschland tief verwurzelt. Sie sind hier zu Hause.
You should feel at home here
Toleranz,
as we
Miteinander und Mitgefühl
eliminate any
groß geschrieben
anti-Semitism
werden
in
und die
Germany.
deutsche Gesellschaft viel dafür tut, dass wir Juden in Deutschland uns wieder sicher und zu Hause fühlen.
That you, as Jews, can feel at home right here and comfortable and
Auch
safe.
diese Botschaft wird ab heute 9 Tage lang in die ganze Welt gesendet. Und deswegen ist diese Eröffnungsfeier, dieser unvergessliche Moment, in diesem Sinne auch euer Moment.
This
Liebe deutsche
this
Delegation.
unforgettable event is your event, and it's also our event.
Und damit soll heute auch eine neue Zeitrechnung für Maccabi Deutschland beginnen. In den vergangenen
This is a
50
new
Jahren
time
war Maccabi
for
Deutschland eher ein unsichtbarer Sportverband. In der
Maccabi
deutschen
in
Sportfamilie.
Germany.
Mit der Austragung der European Maccabi Games wollen wir auch ganz bewusst ein Zeichen setzen für den neuen aufblühenden jüdischen Sport in Deutschland, der auch in Sachen Integration und interreligiöser Vielfalt Maßstäbe setzen will. In unseren Ortsvereinen spielen Christen, Muslime, Juden,
We're looking for an integration of all backgrounds, and this is a very good testimony to all of that.
das schöner, stärker nicht sein könnte. Das zeigt auch die Organisation dieser Spiele. Im Organisationsbüro halfen 15 junge Menschen, 11 davon nicht jüdischen Glaubens. Diese größten jüdischen Spiele wurden organisiert von zumeist freiwilligen Helfern, Bundesfreiwilligen, Praktikanten, die ihre Freizeit ehrenamtlich investiert haben, damit Deutschland wieder zeigen kann, dass die Welt zu Gast bei Freunden ist und der Bundesrepublik
That we in
auch in der
Germany
jüdischen Welt 70 Jahre nach Ende des Holocausts
can
deutlich
tell the
machen.
world that we, in
Wir
fact,
Juden sind wieder ein
that
natürlicher
Jews
Teil
are
einer neuen,
very
weltoffenen deutschen
important to
Gesellschaft.
the
Die
German
Maccabi-Bewegung
community,
lebt wieder.
and the Maccabi Games are a demonstration of that.
Für unsere Arbeit braucht es ehrgeizige Mitstreiter und fleißige Funktionäre, aber auch die Unterstützung vieler Sponsoren, allen voran der Familie Streletzky, die hier genannt werden soll. Aus der Politik und von den Sportverbänden, die dazu beitragen, dass Maccabi in Deutschland nicht nur ein Zuhause hat, sondern zu Hause ist. Das zeigt auch nicht zuletzt
Not only
die
that we have you
Anwesenheit
here as a guest, but you are here as
und die großartige
an
Unterstützung
important
der
part
Bundeskanzlerin,
of our
der
society.
Bundesregierung und natürlich des Berliner Senats für die European Maccabi Games. Aber genauso ist die tatkräftige Hilfe von Herrn Dr. Schuster und dem Zentralrat der Juden in Deutschland. Ohne Sie alle, sehr geehrte Gäste, wären diese Spiele nicht möglich gewesen. Und
Without the leadership of
Ihnen im Namen
our
von Maccabi
games,
Deutschland sehr herzlich danken.
and we We thank you all for being here, and thank
Der
you.
Dank gilt außerdem den unzähligen Sportverbänden, allen voran dem Deutschen Fußballbund und dem Landessportbund Berlin, dem Deutschen Olympischen Sportbund, ohne deren Fachwissen und Mitarbeit die Organisation dieser Spiele undenkbar gewesen wäre. Es ist auch ein wichtiges Signal an
It's
die jüdischen
important
Gemeinden.
to say that this was not something that is in the past, that we could not imagine that this could happen, but it is.
Einmal mehr
And here we
in
are.
einen zermürbenden Krieg gezerrt. Hier in Europa haben wir Massendemonstrationen mit judenfeindlichen Parolen erleben müssen, hörten widerliche Gesänge auf den Straßen unserer Hauptstädte. Im Januar und Februar trafen uns zwei verbrecherische Terrorattentate in Paris und Kopenhagen. An dieser Stelle möchte ich auch unserem Freund und Helden
That's his father,
Dan
who was born.
Busan aus Dänemark gedenken. Ein echter Makkabäer, der an etlichen Maccabi-Spielen in Israel und in Europa teilgenommen hat. Dann wurde während seines Dienstes als Bewacher des jüdischen Gemeindezentrums in Kopenhagen ermordet, als er eine Bar Mitzvah beschützte. Dann opferte sein Leben, damit wir uns Juden in Europa sicher fühlen können.
We want the
Es ist Tradition der jüdischen
Jews in
Kultur,
Europe to feel comfortable in
auch
Europe.
in feierlichen Momenten die dunklen Stunden der Vergangenheit nicht zu vergessen.
We cannot
Als Juden
forget
und
the
als
dark
Deutsche
times
ist es unsere
of the
Pflicht, der
past,
Vergangenheit den angemessenen Rahmen und Platz zu geben.
but it's
Besonders
important
bei
as we
diesen
move
Spielen.
forward to change what was happening in the past.
Konzentrationslager nach Sachsenhausen. Gerade deswegen hielten wir vor wenigen
And
Stunden
we're
eine
talking now about
Gedenkzeremonie.
Sachsenhausen, which isn't that far from
Ihnen,
Berlin,
Frau Friedländer, dass Sie
and that
sich
you
die
all
Zeit
had a
genommen
chance to
herzukommen.
visit that.
Auf dem Maifeld an. Auch Ihnen, Herr Maas, natürlich. Gerade deswegen wird auch der Geschichte heute Abend bei der Eröffnungsfeier gedacht. Vor diesem Hintergrund
We're going to be
war es
talking
uns ein
about that
klarer Wunsch, diese European
in
Maccabi Games
tonight's
nicht in irgendwelchen
ceremonies.
Hinterhofplätzen auszutragen, sondern mitten in der Gesellschaft. Wir wollten ein Fest veranstalten, zu dem jeder eingeladen ist. Maccabi Deutschland steht für Toleranz, Offenheit, Integration und Völkerverständigung.
The Maccabi Games stands for
Together
tolerance,
spielen lassen wir Weltstars, jüdisch
and
und
that everyone
nicht-jüdisch,
is invited.
gemeinsam mit EMG-Stars gegeneinander antreten. Die European Maccabi Games setzen ein Zeichen. Und deshalb gehört dieser besondere Moment auch unseren Gästen.
This is
Für
a
eure
very
Unterstützung
important
und euer
event of our
Vertrauen,
guests.
die Spiele hier auszutragen, möchte ich mich im Namen vom Präsidium von Maccabi Deutschland sehr herzlich bedanken.
Well, we thank
Ich
you all
wünsche
very
euch,
much,
dass ihr euer
and we
Potenzial
wish
im
you
fairen
all
Wettkampf ausschöpfen könnt, neue Freundschaften
that
schließt
you'll have new
und
friends,
Erlebnisse feiert, an die ihr euch
and
noch
that you can
lange
celebrate
zurückerinnern
together.
werdet. Competing in Sports, United in Heart. Dieser Moment gehört euch. Wieder möchte man
This
rufen,
event
schaut auf diese Stadt.
belong to you.
Diese Stadt, die im Zweiten Weltkrieg zerstört und vom Kalten Krieg geteilt wurde,
This city,
zu einem
which
Symbol wurde für das Leid in Deutschland und Europa, ist
has
heute
its
eine
history.
Stadt, die zu den bedeutendsten
And
Metropolen
here we
der
are
Welt
today.
gehört. Dynamisch, vielfältig, offen und herzlich und die mit den European Maccabi Games einmal mehr unter Beweis stellt, dass es in Europa nur gemeinsam funktioniert, dass es uns miteinander besser geht und dass
we
der
hope
Sport
that
ein
everything will
wunderbares
go better
Mittel ist,
together, that we will be able to spend time in better
und
times
ich wünsche
together.
mir, dass wenn die Generation unserer Kinder in einigen Jahren
When our
an
children,
unserer Stelle steht,
our
und
children's
Verantwortung
generation
übernimmt
stand
für
together,
das, was wir hinterlassen, dass Maccabi Deutschland dann genauso eng
Maccabi
mit
in
unserem Land
Germany
verbunden ist wie heute. Und dass die Botschaft, dass diese European Maccabi Games über die nächsten 9 Tage senden will, von Nachhaltigkeit geprägt sind. Maccabi Chai.
Maccabi Chai, you heard it at the end.
Thank you
It's a very inspiring speech. I'm sorry I didn't get it all for you.
You did very,
Thank you,
very
Mr.
well.
Mayor, for your
But
speech.
you clearly had a
We'd like to
very
invite the
optimistic
President
view
of the Central
representing
Council
the
of the
past.
Jews in Germany, Dr. Josef Schuster.
So we just heard Alon Mayer, the president of Maccabi Germany. Now Joseph Schuster is being introduced.
Sehr geehrter Herr
Again, if he speaks
Bundespräsident,
German, which
sehr
we
geehrte
expect,
Frau Schad,
Peter Lilienthal will
sehr
give us a
geehrter Herr
sense
Minister
of what he's
Silvan
saying.
Shalom,
Peter?
sehr
I will
geehrter
give
Herr
it my best
Minister
shot.
Maas,
Okay, you're doing beautifully.
lieber Herr Mayer, Exzellenzen, Herr regierender Bürgermeister, sehr geehrte Frau Friedländer, liebe Mitglieder der jüdischen Gemeinden, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, liebe Sportlerinnen und Sportler.
Welcoming all.
Heute wird ein Traum wahr. 70 Jahre nach der Shoah
This is 70 years after the Holocaust. 70 years after the
Als
Holocaust.
Hitler genau hier mit einer perfekten Propagandashow die Welt blendete, als nur 40 Kilometer von hier entfernt das KZ Sachsenhausen gebaut wurde,
Talks about the 40 kilometers from Berlin where Sachsenhausen concentration camp
hier
was.
wollen wir unsere Wettkämpfe austragen, hier wollen wir die besten jüdischen Sportler küren,
And here we want the
werden
best Jewish
Medaillenträume
athletes
wahr.
to participate.
Uns allen geht es aber nicht nur ums Gewinnen, es ist eine Ehre, dabei zu sein. Und auch wer keinen Wettkampf gewinnt, kann sich am Ende zu den Siegern zählen. Denn ihr alle, liebe Sportler, werdet bereichert nach Hause fahren. Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren,
My dear
die
ladies and
internationale
gentlemen,
Maccabi-Gemeinschaft reicht
this
Deutschland die Hand.
Maccabi
Sie
Games
vertraut Deutschland, sie baut auf Deutschland als
here to
Verbündete.
Germany.
So wie vor 20 Jahren tausende Juden aus der ehemaligen Sowjetunion Deutschland vertraut haben und hierher gezogen sind. Sie haben unser jüdisches Leben zu neuer Blüte gebracht. Sie haben damit Deutschland ein großes Geschenk gemacht. Doch auch
20,000
wir
youths
verdanken
come to
Deutschland in
Germany,
den
have given us a
vergangenen
gift.
70 Jahren viel. Ein Leben in Frieden und Sicherheit.
And over these
All das
70
wollen wir
years have
heute
made a
gemeinsam
difference.
feiern. Mit unseren jüdischen Freunden und mit all unseren nicht-jüdischen Freunden. Wo Hitler
Both
sein
Jewish and
Deutschland,
non-Jewish
Deutschland über alles brüllte,
have made
singen wir heute die Hatikwa. Wo die
relationships and
Nazis
friends
von
over
einem
these years.
judenfreien Europa träumten, lassen wir unseren jüdischen Traum Wirklichkeit werden. Wir zünden ein
We're looking for
Feuerwerk
the
der
reality
jüdischen
of
Kultur,
having
ein
the
Feuerwerk
Jewish
der
presence
Gefühle,
here.
ein Feuerwerk der Rekorde. Und aus tiefstem Herzen möchte ich heute Dank sagen.
Of my,
Dank an Maccabi Deutschland und die Organisatoren
from
der
my
Spiele,
deepest, from
die
my
zum
bottom
Schluss
of my
Tag und
heart,
Nacht
I'm
geschuftet haben.
thankful to have the
Dank an die Stadt
Maccabi
Berlin,
Games here
die
in
uns
Berlin.
so unterstützt. Danke an die 300 Freiwilligen, ohne deren Hilfe die Spiele nicht
And
möglich
thanks to the
gewesen
300
wären.
athletes who are here to participate.
Und danke an die Hunderten von Polizisten und
Thanks
Sicherheitsmitarbeitern, die
to
uns schützen.
the hundreds of police who are here.
Danke an alle, die
Thanks
diesen
to
Traum
all.
hatten und durch die dieser Traum Wirklichkeit
And
geworden ist.
that this dream has really come through.
Wir wetteifern in den sportlichen Disziplinen, doch im Herzen sind wir alle vereint. Maccabi Chai.
And we thank you all for being here and all the best to you all.
Maccabi Chai, a theme.
Vielen Dank, Dr. Josef Schuster. Nun
That was
möchten
Dr.
wir
Joseph
die
Schuster.
Europäische Maccabi-Konföderation willkommen heißen. Wir haben nämlich 10 erfahrene Athleten der Maccabi Games hier. Welche, meine Damen und Herren? An der 8. Maccabia, welche in 1969 stattfand, als Teil der allerersten deutschen Delegation überhaupt bei einer Maccabia nach dem Shoah teilgenommen haben. At this time, we would like to welcome the European Maccabi Confederation. We have 10 senior athletes of Maccabi Germany who participated in the 8 Maccabia in 1969 as part of the first German delegation at the Maccabia after the Shoah. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Abraham Springer.
Adi Rosenberg.
Alexander Miller.
Harry Reitschek.
Henry Meingarten.
Yossi Kaufmann.
Moritz Reiber.
They're still kids.
Grossmann.
Ruben Schickler.
And now, the youngest in the group, at the 90 years young, the age of 90 years young, please welcome Adi Rosenberg.
He's still pretty good. 90.
The banner is being handed over to Alon Mayer, the president of the Maccabi Germany and the European Maccabi Games, for the period of the games, which is a couple of days from now. He will hand it back in the closing ceremony. Give him credit.
Einen großen Applaus nochmal an unsere Senioren.
My name is Yair Hamburger. I'm serving as the chairman of Maccabi World Union, the biggest Jewish Zionistic movement in the world. For me, in this service is closing a circle started 83 years ago when my father Ernst and my aunt Susie came as athletes to participate in the first Maccabiah held in Tel Aviv, that time Palestine. My father came as a swimmer, my aunt as a handball player in Maccabi Deutschland. Then they returned to Germany after falling in love with this country, and after 2 years, 1935, they brought the remaining family to Israel, the parents and their little brother Siegfried. This is why I can stand here in the Waldbühne in Berlin and tell you that because of Maccabi, my family was saved from the nails of the Nazis. And this is my proof as an Israeli born with 5 children and 15 grandchildren that the eternity of Israel will never fail.
It is our great honor to welcome the president of the Maccabi World Union from Helsinki, Finland, Mr. Leo Dan Bensky. Give a warm applause, please.
Leo Dan Bensky, president of Maccabi World Union.
Sehr geehrter Präsident der Bundesrepublik Deutschland, Herr Joachim Gauck, und sehr geehrte Frau Danielle Schad, Bundesminister für Justiz und Verbraucherschutz, Herr Heiko Maas, Deputy Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Silvan Shalom, Staatssekretärin des Innenministeriums, Frau Rogal Grote, regierender Bürgermeister von Berlin, Herr Michael Müller, President of the World Jewish Congress, Ambassador Ron Lauder, כבוד שגריר מדינת ישראל, יעקב הדס הנדלסמן, Präsident des Zentralrats der Juden in Deutschland, Herr Dr. Josef Schuster, כבוד רב קהילה Berlin, Herr Rav Chaim Yitzhak Ehrenberg, Vorsitzender der jüdischen Gemeinde Berlin, Herr Dr. Gideon Joffe, my dear friends and colleagues in the leadership of Maccabi World Union, Chairman Yair Hamburger and Vice Presidents Tony Wortman, Daniel Belinki and Tom Goldman, heads of continental confederations, and President of the European Maccabi Confederation, Stuart Lustigman, Chairman of the European Maccabi Confederation, Moti Tichawa, European Maccabi Confederation executive members, heads of territorial organizations, Maccabi Deutschland President Alon Mayer und Mitglieder des Präsidiums, the Games Organizing Committee and CEO of the Games, Dr. Ore Nostra, dear Marta Esrubilski and your family, honored guests and athletes, Shalom. Lo banu le Berlin levad. Wir sind nicht alleine nach Berlin gekommen.
We
We
didn't
have
come
not
here
come
alone
to
to
Berlin
Berlin.
alone. Each of us carries the dark memory of millions of lives destroyed, of the Jewish people and the countries of Europe tortured and distorted, of freedom and democracy crushed. All of us, even the youngest athletes here today, carry own memories of individual lives, of people who died long before we were born, of survivors whose lives were ruined by the Nazi era. From Maccabi Finland, I bring the memory of athletes like Elias Katz, the 1924 Olympic champion, who later joined Bar Kochba Berlin, but fled from Germany in 1933. From Helsinki, I carry with me Abraham Tokatsia, the Maccabi sprinter whose victory in 1938 was erased by sports officials to impress their Nazi visitors. Nothing I can say makes these memories easier to carry. Aleinu tamid liskor. Wir müssen uns immer erinnern. We must always remember. There was a time when the Jewish nation could not defend itself, when civilized values collapsed in Germany and Europe. These terrible memories remind us to always be strong and courageous, and to guard our most precious possessions, freedom and democracy. Now, we are athletes of a strong and courageous Jewish people that carries its memories with pride and defends freedom and democracy in Israel and wherever we live. Now we are Jewish athletes competing in and enjoying the new Berlin, in the new Germany that honors memory and guards the light of freedom and democracy. Stark und mutig, strong and brave. Hazak ve'amatz.
Leo Dan Pensky, president of Maccabi World Union. A stirring set of remarks. Everybody so far, Peter, has spoken very well.
Vor 32 Jahren war ich der jüngste Teilnehmer der Europamakabiade in Antwerpen.
Exactly. It began with Alon Mayer, who did not shy away from talking about the past, talking about the Shoah, and putting these games in that perspective.
And the importance and the theme of having the Sachsenhausen concentration camp not far from Berlin, being a place where the athletes visit and mentioned, and where we are today.
Yes, and again, every athlete attending the games was taken to that camp,
right,
that they understand the context of how these games are being played.
At every opening ceremony of the Maccabi game, it is custom to recite the Yizkor. This is a special memorial prayer for the departed. Yizkor in Hebrew means remember. We have to remember and protect the souls of our relatives and our beloved ones that were murdered or have passed away.
Today's Yizkor will be recited by Michael Fisch. Michael Fisch is an athlete on the Danish futsal team in Hakoah, Copenhagen, and an old teammate of the late Dan Uzan, may he rest in peace, who was murdered this February in a terror attack at the Copenhagen synagogue.
Throughout
the generations, the Maccabees will remember the 11 Israeli athletes murdered at the Munich Olympics in 1972, the victims of the Holocaust, the victims of terror, the Jewish soldiers in the 2 world wars, the underground fighters for Israel's independence, the soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Israel Defense Forces. We should forever remember and never forget those who gave their lives for our right to live as Jews. May their memory be blessed.
Please welcome the chairman of the European Maccabi, Mordechai Pischauer.
Sehr geehrter Herr Bundespräsident Joachim Gauck, sehr geehrte Frau Daniela Schad, Kvod Shagrir Medinat Israel, Yaakov Hadas Handelsmann, Präsident des Zentralrats der Juden in Deutschland, Herr Dr. Josef
Giving
Schuster,
respects to all those who were
Kvod Rav
involved in
Keilat
the
Berlin, Harav
organization.
Chaim Yitzhak Ehrenberg, Vorsitzender der Jüdischen Gemeinde Berlin, Herr Dr. Gidon Joffe.
This is Mordechai Pischauer, President of the European Maccabi Federation, Confederation.
Leo Dambensky, Chairman Yair Hamburger and Vice President, fellow heads of Maccabi Continental Confederations and leaders of territorial organizations, my colleagues on the executive of our European Maccabi Confederation, Maccabi Deutschland Präsident Alon Meyer und Mitglieder des Präsidiums, the Games Organizing Committee and CEO, Dr. Oren Osterer. I extend a most heartfelt personal welcome to our dear Marta S. Rubilski. And to all of you, the Maccabim from 5 continents and 37 countries, and especially the country that sends to our game its largest ever delegation, Israel. Honored guests, I greet you. Bruchim habaim. Welcome, willkommen. Die Sprache des Zionismus und Maccabi war Deutsch. The first language of Zionism and Maccabi was German. And 120 years ago, the founders in 1895 of the first Jüdischer Turnverein at Constantinople, today Istanbul, Turkey, were German and Austrian Jews. In 1898, at the Second World Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland, Max Nordau spoke in German to proclaim the great vision of Maccabi, Muskeljudentum, muscular Judaism. A young man from Berlin who heard Nordau speak, Professor Heinrich Kuhn, was elected first president of our Maccabi World Union, first called Maccabi Weltverband, that was established in 1921 during the 12th Zionist Congress in Karlovy Vary, Karlsbad in Czechoslovakia. In our time, Kurt Georg Dradenwitz became chairman of the European Maccabi Confederation. We all knew him as Ken Graydon, the young Berliner who came to England on a Kindertransport. I believe they would all feel now as I feel, grateful and proud to see this magnificent event here at the Waldbühne in Berlin. Grateful and proud that the Jewish people lives Am Israel Chai. Grateful for the living reality of Maccabi here in the heart of Germany. Proud that from here, our Maccabi movement sends a strong and clear message. No to racism, zero tolerance of anti-Semitism in Germany, in Europe, everywhere. Chaverim, Maccabim, athletes, when you compete, respect your opponent. Treat your opponent as you would want your opponent to treat you. And compete as Chaverim, partners in the strong and courageous spirit of the Maccabim. The European Maccabi Confederation wishes you a great week here in the warm hospitality of Berlin. On behalf of the EMC executive, and as one of the first generation who grew up in Maccabi in the new Germany, I thank the executive of Maccabi Deutschland, previous and current members who worked so hard Maccabi Games to Germany and to organize them here in Berlin. Chaverim, Maccabim, dear guests, toda rabba, thank you very much. Vielen, vielen Dank. Chazak ve'ematz. Maccabi chai, Am Israel chai.
Vielen, vielen Dank, Herr Mordechai.
Mordechai Tichauer, president of the European Maccabi Confederation.
He took part
Again,
in more than
stirring
10
words.
Maccabia and EMG games. To swear in the athletes, I
We
would
now
like to
have the
invite
athlete's
Dr. David
oath.
Sandberg.
We, the athletes assembled here in Berlin to participate in the 14th European Maccabi Games, hereby swear to observe the rules and ethics of fair play and competition for the sake of sport, the honor of Israel, and the communities we represent.
Thank you very much. He was born in Berlin, and he is the only soccer referee in Berlin. To swear in the referees, I would like to invite Daniel Schnapp.
Now
As a
the
partial
judge's
official,
oath.
we hereby undertake to referee and judge all competitions and tournaments of the 14th European Maccabi Games in accordance with international codes and ethics of sport and in the spirit of friendship and fellowship and fair play. Enjoy the games.
שמי רוני כץ פרידמן, אני המפיקה האומנותית של טקס פתיחת משחקי מכבי אירופה. סבי וסבתי, יעקב ואיתה כץ, נלקחו עם פרוץ המלחמה למחנה ריכוז באוקראינה. בנם הבכור בן השלוש נלקח למחנה אחר. סבתי ירתה במחנה, מה שהיה מאוד נדיר. היא ילדה תינוק בריא, שהיווה ממש מוקד עלייה לרגל. כעבור 3 שבועות היא חלתה בטיפוס הבטן, ולא יכלה להעניק אותו, והתינוק נפטר בגיל 6 שבועות. סבתי שרדה את המלחמה. עם תום המלחמה נודע לה שבנה הבכור, שהיה כמעט בן 4, נרצח במחנה ריכוז. שנה אחרי המלחמה נולד אבי. מבחינתה הוא היה סמל לתקווה ולחיים חדשים. להפיק אומנותית את טקס פתיחת משחקי מכבי אירופה, זה מבחינתי מימוש התקווה וההמשכיות שסבתי החלה ב-1946 כשילדה את אבי.
Please stand for the national anthem of Israel, Hatikva.
very moving hearing the national anthem of Israel
You may sit.
at the European Maccabi Games in Berlin.
Ich bin in Berlin geboren und von meiner Kindheit an mit Maccabi tief verwurzelt. Meine Mutter, die selbst 20 Jahre im Vorstand von Maccabi war und später Ehrenvorsitzende von Maccabi geworden ist, hat mir Maccabi mit in die Wiege gelegt. Ich habe es geliebt, bei Maccabi zu spielen. Ich habe dort Freunde fürs Leben gefunden. Und die Begeisterung, die meine Mutter mir mitgegeben hat, war auch der Grund, warum ich spontan mich dazu entschieden habe, hier bei diesem Organisationskomitee zur Eröffnung der European Maccabi Games mitzumachen. Ehrlich gesagt bin ich aufgeregt. 70 Jahre nach der Shoah.
My apologies. I have a screen here where all the translation is taking place.
Can you read it?
And I can read it. And to see the Jewish athletes from all over, my mother would have been very happy to see this. I'm sorry. I thought
it's all right.
Jewish history, each era had its own enemy. And the spirit of us survived beyond the many who came to destroy us through ages. והיא שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו. מתיסיהו.
A performance now by the American-Israeli Jewish Mattisyahu.
Sometimes I lay under the moon, I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, I'm here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. Negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll turn around.
That was Matisyahu's signature song,
Ich heiße
One Day.
Urenkelin von Ignaz Nacher, Begründer der größten deutschen Brauerei vor der Shoah, der Engelhardt Brauerei. Erst kürzlich beim Aufräumen des Dachbodens ist mir eine Medaille in die Hände gefallen mit der Aufschrift für das ehrenvolle Mitwirken zu den Olympischen Spielen 1936. So wie ich mich erinnere, hat mein Großvater diese Medaille bekommen. Dies hat meinem Großvater nichts genützt, denn er wurde trotzdem in das Lager Westerbork deportiert. Herr Kallmeier hat ihn und meine Familie gerettet. Nach fast 80 Jahren schließt sich nun der Kreis und ich kann bei der größten jüdischen Sportveranstaltung in der Berliner Waldbühne Ihnen zurufen, Maccabi Chai.
1895, 120 years ago, in Istanbul, called Constantinople in those days, a few French Jewish athletes requested to join the local sports club. The request was denied because they were Jewish. Following that, they decided to start a club of their own. At the Second World Zionist Congress, Dr. Max Nordau coined the term Jewish muscle man. The term described the type of performance-oriented person which one needs for building a new state. His appeal meets open ears. The philosophy student Wilhelm Levy from Berlin founds the first Jewish gymnasist club together with former schoolmates. They named it Bar Kochba. Some years later, 11 Jewish gymnasist clubs followed the appeal of Bar Kochba to unite under the umbrella organization and found the Jüdische Turnerschaft based in Berlin, which represents around 2,000 women and men from all over Europe.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable fall, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the dead did not go, to ride the unrideable road, to love pure and chaste from afar, to run when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to that glorious quest, that my heart will peaceful come when I lay to
August 1936, right there behind those trees right here, in the Olympia Stadium, the 11th Olympics take place. Adolf Hitler has been the Reich Chancellor for 2 years now, and during that time, Jews are being excluded from non-Jewish sports clubs. Berlin was the center of the Jewish sports world until the Nazis took over, and Maccabi was forced to change its headquarters from Berlin to London. But today, 20 or 82 years later, Maccabi is coming back to his own roots. Hitler saw the Olympic Games as the opportunity to promote his regime and ideas of racial supremacy, especially for the Olympia. Hitler ordered to remove all signs banning Jews from entering public places and disallow them to participate in the Games. The Games began, and to Hitler's embarrassment, the African-American runner Jess Owens wins the gold medal before his very eyes. The Nazis also prevented the participation of the Jewish high jumper Gretel Bergmann in the Olympic Games, the one who set the German record with 1.6 meters just 4 weeks before the Olympics. But since 2012, Gretel Bergmann is included in the Hall of Fame of all German sports. And here we are, connected in the stories, in the achievements, and the victory of the generations of athletes before us, destined in continue their footsteps in good spirits, the spirit of sport behind us that unites us and enables us to get together and feel as one.
What a fabulous rendition of Impossible Dream, so fitting for the spirit of what we're trying to do here in these games.
Feiern wir 50 Jahre diplomatische Beziehungen zwischen Deutschland und Israel. Wir lieben runde Zahlen. Sie erzählen dieselbe Geschichte, gleich viel hübscher. Hier und jetzt sind wir Zeugen einer diplomatischen, ökonomischen, kulturellen, wissenschaftlichen, künstlerischen und schulischen Zusammenarbeit. 50 Orchestermusiker, 25 aus Israel und 25 aus Deutschland. Zusammen mit Tänzern aus beiden Ländern verkörpern diese Zusammenarbeit. Auf die nächsten 50, 50-50!
The essence of what she said?
Yes.
What was it?
This is a combination of both the German and Israeli 25 and 25 each for the 50, altogether representing the 50 years.
Gentlemen, the fire of the games represents the spark of life, the spirit, the existence of sport. That fire traveled all the way from Israel.
The torch of the games left Israel 18 days ago, לפני 18 יום, with a convoy of motorcycles, just as it did almost 80 years ago, spreading the news of the first Maccabiah from Israel.
We're about to see the 11 motorcycles that left Israel 18 days ago, 18 days ago, traveled from Israel, the same route that their forebears took 79 years ago to announce the first Maccabi Games in Tel Aviv in 1932. And they're coming now, after having retraced that same route, adding one stop at Auschwitz. They're bearing the torch and flame of this year's Maccabi Games. A survivor is among the cyclists, and there are children of survivors on the other cycles, and they're going to drive now, right into the stadium, and they will participate in the lighting of this year's Maccabi flame. And they'll be joined by Nancy Glickman, the daughter of Marty Glickman, and Ann Stoller, cousin of Sam Stoller, the two Jewish athletes who were denied participation in the 1936 Berlin Games on the same grounds in 1936. As we're moving toward the culmination of the closing ceremonies that open the 2015 European Maccabi Games, the lighting of the Maccabi Olympic torch.
Vielen, vielen Dank an Maya Saban. 1936 kam Sam Stoller und Marty Glickman hier an, um bei den Olympischen Spielen die USA zu vertreten. Sie durften
This
nicht
is a repeat of the
da sie jüdisch sind. Heute
This is a repeat of the history of the loss of Marty Glickman and Sam Stoller in the denial in the 36 Olympics. That's what the repeat is about here.
In 1936, Sam Stoller and Marty Glickman arrived here to the Olympic Games representing the US delegation. They would not allow them to compete because they were Jewish. Today, Sam Stoller's cousin, Ann Stoller, is passing the torch to Nancy Glickman, the daughter of Marty Glickman, who is wearing her father's original 1936 uniform and will be lighting the Maccabi fire. Ladies and gentlemen, Nancy Glickman, please light the torch.
There you have it. Nancy Glickman has the honor. It's very touching. It brings tears to my eyes. Very touching. She represents her father in 1936, and he was always bitter about it. In 1936, he was not permitted to participate in the games. Well, in his honor, in his memory, Nancy Glickman lights the torch at the 2015 European Maccabi Games in the same Olympic Park where her father was denied opportunity to run only because he was a Jew, and it, of course, foretold the Shoah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 1979 Eurovision Song Contest winner, Gali Atari.
Hallelujah.
Dana International. Representing Israel this year, the Golden Boy, Nadav Gay!
Just fabulous. Just fabulous. Those were all songs that won festivals created by Israelis.
We're done for the ceremony tonight. We'd like to thank the creators and the artists. Please do come and visit us at the Olympic Park this week. Thanks to the athletes who brought this to you, and with them, the sporting spirit that without whom we would have not been here. And before I leave, let me show you Tel Aviv, Palina.
Oh no, I don't want to see it. Thank you very much. I was in Tel Aviv and it was great.
I know.
So, meine Lieben, das war's. Wir sind am Ende der Eröffnungsfeier.
We're at the end.
Ganz großes Dank an
It's a
alle
great show.
Künstler und an alle kreativen Schöpfer.
Thanks to all the
Vielen
performers
Dank an das Orchester.
and all of
Vielen Dank
the orchestra.
an Roy Oppenheim. Vielen Dank an alle, die teilgenommen haben. Kommt und besucht diese Woche den Olympischen Park.
Come and take a look
Ein ganz
and
großes
visit
Danke natürlich an die
this
Athleten,
Olympic Park.
welche mit ihrem Sportgeist hier hergekommen sind und ohne die wir natürlich heute nicht hier wären.
And best to our,
We wish
our
all the
athletic guests.
athletes good luck and fair competitions.
אני רוצה לנצל את ההזדמנות להגיד תודה לכל החברים שהגיעו מישראל והצלחה לכולם, ולכל מי שנמצא כאן, למי שרואה אותנו בבית ובארץ ובכל מקום, לכולם, to all the delegation, alle Gruppen von allen Ländern, בהצלחה, viel Erfolg.
Ganz viel Erfolg und vor allem natürlich ganz viel Spaß. Und jetzt haben wir natürlich noch ein kleines Schmankerl für euch. 1, 2, 3. Let the Games Berlin!
All delegation, please remain in your seats. Please remain seated. תודה רבה. Dankeschön, das war besonders angenehm.
Vielen Dank, ihr Guys. Ich freue mich auf Tel Aviv.
Ja, bis du eingeladen bist.
Danke, das ist sehr nett von dir.
Meine Gäste in
Dankeschön.
Tel Aviv. תודה רבה, ערב טוב, שלום.
Vielen Dank fürs Zusehen und danke an den lieben Gott mit dem ganzen Regen, dass es eben kein Regen gab, sondern dass es nur Sonnenschein für uns gab. Vielen Dank. Tschüss.
So there you have it. JBS's exclusive television presentation of the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. The two hosts, Paulina Brzezinski and Yigal Ravid. Paulina is a television personality. Yigal Ravid is a television host out of Israel. They did a wonderful job. Again, you're hearing a lot of German, and thanks to Peter Lilienthal for helping us with a translation. But a lot of it didn't need translation. And of course, some of it was in English, some of it was in Hebrew. But there was a spirit that just jumped right through the television screen and just engulfed the viewer. And you know, I'm just a Jewish guy enjoying it as you are. And it was very, very moving to me, especially the end, where they brought in first, you know, Marty Glickman's daughter, Nancy, gets to light the flame. And then it was very, whoever came up with this idea, just a brilliant idea. You had a series of songs created by Israelis that won European song festivals, the Euro Song Festival, beginning with Hallelujah, which for me has very special meaning. The first time I ever heard the song Hallelujah was at my wedding to Ruth, and it was sung by Jerry Kranz to me and Ruth as a gift. And it is one of the all-time great songs that came out of Israel, Hallelujah. And that's the spirit that we had here. You know, it was Alon Mayer, who was the president of the Maccabi of Germany. Alon Mayer just symbolized, expressed, epitomized in his words the sentiment of the games, which was compete in spirit, unite in heart. Compete in spirit, unite in heart. And obviously all the athletes that come from, you know, virtually 36, 37, 38, 39 countries, all Jews, except as Micah Halperin explained, from Israel, because from Israel, any Israeli athlete, Jew or non-Jew, was welcome to compete, to win a place in the games, and to come to Berlin to participate in these games. But all the others, all Jews, from Germany, from America, from Israel, from Great Britain. You know, we show you the list of all the countries, Australia. And it's all family celebrating, competing, and uniting as one family. And the uniting also extends beyond the Jewish people. There was a celebration of 50 years of profound friendship and cooperation between Israel and Germany. And many of the speakers did not shy away from reminding all of us that these games are taking place in the context of history. And the history is a brutal one. The darkest night in human history, the Shoah. And yet it's also about the future. These young people about to compete in a host of games. If possible, we'll be able to show you some of the competition. We hope to be able to do that here on JBS, but what we are so proud that we did today is that we enabled you throughout America, Jew and non-Jew alike, to participate in a moment of Jewish history. This moment will be seared in Jewish history in a positive way. And we were able to show it to you and share it with you on JBS. We'd love to hear your reactions. If you're watching and you have the energy after this emotionally draining, very lovely ceremony, to give us a call. We're going to open our phones. We're going to stay on the air for another 20 minutes till about 5:30 during this original broadcast. So we're going to open the phones, and you can call us. Maybe we'll put the number. The number is up on the screen, 201-242-1142. I'd love to hear your reactions. If you shared any part of the afternoon with us as we brought you the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. And by the way, I want to make sure we thank Ron Carner, who is the president of Maccabi USA, a lovely, lovely man. I had a chance to sit with him on L'chaim, and sit with his wife as well, Talia, who wrote a wonderful book, Hotel Moscow, and is a fabulous person in her own right. Both the Carners, just lovely, lovely people. But Ron has done extraordinary work on behalf of the Maccabi Games. By the way, Catherine Lurie Alt, who is also a member of the Maccabi Committee, the International Maccabi Committee, and she's also involved in press relations, and she's a dear friend of JBS. We also want to thank her and all the people whom we dealt with in Germany, in Berlin. I mean, getting ready for this broadcast, there was a lot of details that had to be ironed out. And this is the first time the Maccabi did this kind of telecast, and we're very, very proud that JBS was able to partner with them, and we hope it's the beginning of a long, long partnership where whenever they do something that should be seen by America, you'll see it on JBS. But again, if there's anyone who watched, if any of you watched, and you were moved, you had any thoughts at all, what did it mean to you? What does it mean to you that the Maccabi Games are this year in Berlin, in the same Olympic space that housed the 36 Olympic Games that, of course, became infamous in Jewish history? Give us a call and participate. Just give me a sense of what you felt. And if anybody does call, we'll put you on the air. I'm still here with Peter, and I want Peter to also be part of a conversation. I thank you so much for this.
Well, let me say this. First of all, let me thank you. And I hope that the audience was as moved as clearly you and I were, and that this represents in many ways a statement by Germany in really bringing the Jewish community into its fold, not at any time forgetting where it all came from, not forgetting the 1936 Olympics, not forgetting Marty Glickman and Sam Stoller, and at the end, sort of punctuating that with Marty Glickman's daughter, who then lit the candle. That, to me, it was a very, very moving moment.
Yes.
You know, is just appearing here is one thing, but witnessing this is something else.
Thank you, Peter. We're going to go to our phones and welcome Rachel from New Jersey. Rachel, thank you for joining us.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Rachel, are you there? We just lost Rachel. I would have loved to have talked to Rachel. Rachel, if you call back, we'll put you on the air. Again, our phone number is, put the phone number up on the screen for me, 201-242-1142. If you'd like to comment on the JBS telecast of the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games. Let's see what we have on the screen right now coming up. Give me 1 second. We're going to go to Martin from New York. Martin, thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Hi. I want you to know how much I love JBS and how much unfortunately, I saw the end of this musical tribute, to the games. Is it going to be repeated at all?
Yes, for everybody who's watching and may not have caught it from the beginning, tomorrow night.
I can't hear you.
Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. we'll replay the entire event. So for anybody who missed it or you know friends who might want to watch it, tell everybody. 7 p.m. We're going to do it in prime time. 7 p.m. for the next, for 3.5 hours. 7 to 10:30 p.m. You can watch once again. Either you want to watch it a second time, or you didn't get to see the whole thing, or maybe you missed all of it. Tell your friends. 7 to 10:30 tomorrow night, Martin. And thank you for the kind words.
And Anzagesent.
Duech. Okay, all right. We're going to go to New Jersey and welcome Eileen. Thank you, Eileen, for joining us.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay, kol hakavod to
Toda rabah.
JBS. I think it was wonderful. I didn't see my email until I thought it was too late, but I caught most of it, and it was very moving.
What moved you, Eileen?
Especially the lighting of the flame,
Yes.
with the motorcycles coming in and the lighting of the flame. And I just thought it was beautiful, very touching, very emotional. And, I felt like I was able to participate from afar.
Exactly.
And, I just think it was wonderful that JBS was able to do this and for
Thank
people
you
to
for saying so, dear. Thank you
participate.
very, very much.
Okay.
You be well. Keep watching. We go to Westchester and welcome Gabby. Gabby, thank you for joining us.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
How much of the how much of our coverage did you get to watch?
I got to watch everything, the whole thing.
That's wonderful. What did you think?
Well, let me give you, I have a little bit of an interesting background because I was born in Israel.
Yes.
My parents, who come from Germany, went back to Germany in 1956. And I then immigrated to the United States in 65. So I'm very familiar with all the cultures. I speak Hebrew fluently, German fluently, and as you can hear, English with a little bit of an accent. So I feel very familiar with everything that was happening. It was very moving for me, very touching. The Israeli songs, the German speakers, it was just wonderful. I'm glad you could put it on the air.
I am too.
And I watch your station very often, and I really love it.
Thank you. Gabby, were you impressed by what the people who spoke in German, they tended to be involved with the Maccabi in one capacity or another, but their message seemed to be one, first of all, it was very positive and uplifting, but it also spoke again of this theme of unity. How did that strike you, Gabby?
Look, I've been exposed to this basically all my life, and I'm very happy that the whole thing was also that the Shoah was stressed.
Absolutely.
In the whole thing, but not necessarily in a negative way only.
Yes.
And it needed to be said, and it's the base for the whole event in Germany, and I was glad that it was not left out.
I think you said it perfectly.
I think all the people were very genuine. They spoke from the heart. I know a lot of Germans. I go to Germany all the time. As a matter of fact, I'll be there in 10 days in Berlin. And I must say that I know a lot of very nice, good German people. And I'm glad that that you made the hump to go there.
Thank you very, very much, darling. I appreciate this call very, very much. You keep watching.
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you. We go to Hartsdale and welcome Larry. Larry, thank you for joining us.
Is this Mark Golub?
It is, Larry. How are you?
Thrill.
Yes, it is.
It's a thrill to speak to you, and I see my name on your screen, Larry from Hartsdale, New York. I want to tell you that the broadcast was thrilling to me. I cried, which is a rare event for an unemotional guy like me. The public service that you're doing by broadcasting this is remarkable. I'm sure it'll be rebroadcast by you many times, but the event itself, I feel, is just a historic event to show that reconciliation can exist even in that amount of time among people who did such things to each other, the German people who did such things to the Jews and permitted their own people to do this to Jews in their own country, unthinkable things, that they could have this in Berlin at this time. I can't tell you how thrilling it is.
I think you say it perfectly. Larry, you said it almost made you cry, or it did make you cry. At what moments were you touched the most, Larry?
At what moment was I touched the most? It's hard for me to say. Just the idea of the entire spectacle occurring on grounds where people were murdered less than a century ago. Just the location.
Yes.
I can't tell you what moment. The location of the event.
I understand.
The mention of the name of Marty Glickman.
Yes.
After all, I'm a newspaper and a journalist. He was a big idol to me when I was young.
Sure.
And everything about it. I do not know how this was put together, where the money came from to bring all these people.
Yes.
Many from Israel, but others from all over the world to rehearse, to stage this spectacle in that location. The whole thing is beyond me to figure out how that happened, other than it tells me that after after the murder of so many Jews right there and within 1,000 miles of there in every direction less than a century ago, this could occur in that location, staged by Jews. It's got in it some message of how we Jews have existed for thousands of years when others have gone by the wayside. There's just something in the Jews that persists forever, no matter what. And it's a gift to me to have been born. I don't want to hang on forever, but I am one of those people from Brooklyn, New York, for whom being Jewish has been a gift to my entire life, because everything I've experienced has been terrific for me just from being Jewish, you know.
Larry, I could kiss you right through the TV. Thank you for this call. You know how much I appreciate it.
Yes.
And you stay in touch with me, but you be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to speak to you today.
You too, my friend. We're going to go to Hartsdale and bring in Pearl. Pearl, thank you for joining us. Is Pearl there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you for joining us, Pearl. Did you watch
Who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to Mark Golub.
Oh, yes. Rabbi Golub, I enjoy watching you on television all day.
Thank you very much. Did you get to watch a lot of the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi games?
Yes.
What did you think, Pearl?
All I can say is I'm breathtaking. I wasn't prepared to watch this program. I came home, I had something to eat early today, and I turned on the television, and lo and behold, this was there. And I had seen this many years before. Every year I catch it. And it's one of the best programs on television and I'm a great television watcher, and I love it.
I am thrilled.
I love it. I think it's done beautifully, and today's program was just spectacular.
Pearl, thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words. And you know, all of us here at JBS are doing the best we can to do one thing, to bring people like you and Larry, who just called, and everybody. We're trying to create a place on American television that informs and educates and inspires. And when I hear what you say and when I hear what Larry says, you know, it makes me feel like we're on the right track. So thank you very much for this call, darling.
Thank you very much.
Be
Bye.
well. Bye-bye. Peter, the callers are really echoing what you said.
Well, the thing is, if you're Jewish, which a lot of people who are watching this program are,
yes,
and if you have that Jewish soul, that soul just comes to life. It was a great show.
We have to end. I'd love to spend the rest of the day with you and then evening with you again. For anybody who wants to watch again, or if you have a friend who didn't get to watch, we will be repeating this entire program, the entire presentation of the opening ceremonies of the 2015 European Maccabi Games, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. That would be 7 p.m. on, what is today? Today's Tuesday. Wednesday night? Am I right? Have I got the right day? Okay, right. Okay. If you're watching it Wednesday night, it won't repeat tomorrow at 7 p.m. But if you're watching it now and you want to watch at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night, we will rebroadcast the entire event for you. There are a lot of people I want to thank who did a spectacular job in putting this program together. Again, Ron Karner of Maccabi USA, thank you, Ron, so much. I only wish I could have been walking alongside you in Berlin. Paulina Roginski and Yigal Ravi did a fabulous job hosting the event at the ceremony itself in Berlin. And then there was the JBF staff, and the JBS staff is just spectacular to work with, beginning with Sloan Copeland, our Vice President of Production, who is just a genius at putting programs together. And Sloan, you did a fabulous job as always. And right next to Sloan is Serge Goldberg, our production coordinator, chief engineer, who did monumental work to put this program together, speaking to Germany for days and days and days and days, and putting together the crew that made it look so good. And so, Serge, thank you so much. Dara Golub, the associate producer, associate director, I should say, associate director of JBS, and many of the videos were a product of her work, and she's doing fabulous work. And she's being featured on the front page of the Stanford Advocate today. So that if you're watching in Fairfield County, get the Advocate. Dara Golub's picture is front and center on the front page. She's going to be singing in Stanford tomorrow. Carol Lilienthal was the producer of this fabulous program, and Carol did a wonderful job and so many details. Carol, thank you so much. In studio, Igor Funk and Oleg Oswolenko. They make it look so easy. You guys are fabulous, just fabulous. Thank you both. And in production, Corey Sivikoff and Dennis Golan, wonderful job to both of you. Thank you for all the things you do to make this possible. And to Jan Weiss, who holds my hand to make sure everything gets done properly. Jan, I could not do it without you. Special thanks to the man on my right, Peter Lilienthal. You did a wonderful job on the spur of the moment. Fabulous job. And there's so many ways in which you add to everything I do here. I can't thank you enough.
A real pleasure. Thanks, Mark.
And, of course, to Micah Halpern, who spent the first hour and a half with us and brought so much insight. And Micah seems to know so much about everything. Just fabulous job to Micah. I also want to ask you to be in touch with us. You heard some of the callers. If you appreciated JBS's exclusive television coverage of the 2015 European Maccabi Games, please let us know. Email me or write me. And we'll be able to pass your emails and your letters on to the Maccabi International Committee. And if you appreciated their their work, and you understand that they deserve so much credit, it would be nice if you, the viewers, gave me the chance to tell them and to show them how much their work is appreciated and how wonderful it is to have it on television. And of course, I ask you to please consider supporting JBS. We rely on you, just like PBS. We rely on you for the financial support needed to bring these programs, like this live presentation of the Maccabi Games from Berlin, Germany, to bring them to you each and every week. So I hope you'll go out of your way to become a formal part of the JBS community by making a tax-deductible donation, either online or by sending a tax-deductible check to us. Thanks also to Ruth Golub. Ruth, I adore you, and understand Ruth Golub makes everything that you see here on JBS possible. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.